What's up, guys? Welcome to Sleepy Cinephile. Tonight, we're stepping into the world of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, where magic hums in the air and a boy's destiny is about to unfold. Picture yourself standing on a quiet street, the kind where every house looks the same, neat lawns, trimmed hedges, and curtains drawn tight. It's late, the sky a deep indigo speckled with stars that seem to whisper secrets. A cool breeze carries the scent of fresh-cut grass, and somewhere a dog barks, once then falls silent. You're here in little whinging Surrey on Privet Drive, where something extraordinary is about to happen. Don't worry, if you're new to this world, by the end you'll feel like you've lived it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Drop a comment with your city and what time it is where you are hearing where you guys are tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe crack a window for that crisp night air, and let's dive into this journey together. You're standing on the sidewalk, the streetlights casting soft orange pools across the pavement. Privet Drive is still the kind of still that makes you hold your breath like the world's waiting for something. The houses, all boxy and identical, sit in orderly rows, their windows dark. It's the kind of place where nothing ever happens, where people mow their lawns on Sundays and gossip over fences about who parked their car wrong. But tonight, the air feels different, charged like the moment before a storm. You glance up and the stars seem brighter, almost too bright, as if they're watching this street this moment. A faint rustle catches your ear and you turn. At the edge of the street, where the light barely reaches, a figure appears. He's tall, draped in a long cloak that brushes the ground, his face half hidden by a pointed hat. His name, though you don't know it, yet is Albus Dumbledore, and he moves with a quiet purpose that makes your skin prickle. He's not like anyone who belongs on Privet Drive. You watch as he raises a hand holding something small, a cigarette lighter maybe, but not quite. He clicks it, and the nearest streetlight flickers, then goes out, its light curling into the device like a ribbon of flame. He clicks again, and another light vanishes. One by one, the streetlights dim until Privet Drive is cloaked in darkness, lit only by the moon and those watchful stars. You step closer, your shoes silent on the pavement. Dumbledore pauses his eyes, scanning the street, and you notice the way his beard catches the moonlight, silver and long, like a cascade of starlight. He's not nervous, but there's a weight to him, a sadness you can almost feel. You wonder what brings a man like this to a place like this in the dead of night. Then, from the shadows, another sound, a soft meow. A tabby cat, sleek and gray, sits on a low brick wall, its eyes glinting like twin moons. It stares at Dumbledore, and he nods as if they've known each other forever. "Good evening, Professor McGonagall," he says, his voice low and warm, with a hint of a smile. You blink, confused. "Professor, that's no cat." But as you watch, the cat leaps from the wall, and its shape shifts, stretching and twisting until it's no longer a cat, but a woman. She's tall, stern, her hair pulled into a tight bun, her robes emerald green. Minerva McGonagall's face is sharp, her eyes fierce, but there's worry etched into her expression. You feel like you're intruding on something private, something bigger than you can grasp. "How did you know it was me?" she asks, her voice crisp but soft. Dumbledore chuckles a deep, gentle sound. "My dear Minerva, I've never seen a cat sit quite so stiffly." You stifle a grin. Even in this strange moment, there's humor like a spark in the dark. McGonagall doesn't laugh, though. She steps closer, her robes rustling, and you catch the scent of parchment and ink, like an old library. She's been watching this street, you realize, waiting for him. "Are the rumors true, Albus?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is it really over?" Dumbledore's face grows serious, the lines around his eyes deepening. "It's true," he says. "Voldemort is gone, for now. You don't know who Voldemort is, but the name sends a chill through you, sharp and cold like a blade against your skin. McGonagall's breath catches, and you see her hands tremble just for a moment before she clasps them together. And the Potters she asks quieter now, almost afraid of the answer. Dumbledore's eyes drop to the ground, and the sadness you sensed earlier fills the air heavy and thick. Lily and James are dead. The words hit like a punch. You don't know these people, but the grief in Dumbledore's voice, the way McGonagall's shoulders slump, makes you feel it too. You stand there, frozen, as McGonagall's eyes glisten, though she doesn't cry. She's strong, you can tell, but this hurts her deeply. But Harry, she presses her voice urgent. What about the boy? Dumbledore raises a hand, calming her. Harry lives. He's safe. Hagrid is bringing him here. You glance around, half expecting to see this Hagrid, whoever he is. The street is still empty, but the mention of Harry, a boy, a survivor, makes your heart beat faster. Who is he? Why does he matter so much? McGonagall seems to share your questions because she shakes her head, her lips tight. Here, she says incredulous. With these people, Albus, you can't mean the Dursleys. I've watched them all day. They're the worst sort, narrow-minded, cruel. The boy deserves better. You follow her gaze to number 4, Privet Drive, a house like all the others, its windows dark and unwelcoming. You can almost picture the Dursleys inside snoring in their perfectly ordinary beds, oblivious to the magic unfolding outside. McGonagall's right, they don't seem like the kind of people who'd care for a boy like Harry, whoever he is. Dumbledore's voice is steady, but there's a firmness to it now. He'll be safe here, Minerva. The Dursleys are his only family. Lily's sister will protect him whether she knows it or not. Blood magic is powerful. You don't understand what he means by blood magic, but the way he says it with such quiet certainty makes you believe him. McGonagall doesn't argue, but her silence speaks volumes. She trusts Dumbledore even if she doesn't like his plan. A low rumble breaks the quiet, growing louder, like thunder rolling closer. You look up, expecting a storm, but the sky is clear. The sound comes from above, and then you see it, a light, faint at first, bobbing in the darkness. It's not a star, not a plane. It's a motorcycle descending from the sky, its headlight cutting through the night. You stare, mouth open, as the bike lands with a thud on the street, its engine growling before it cuts off. The rider is enormous, a giant of a man, his wild black hair and beard tangled from the wind. This must be Hagrid. His coat is patched and worn, and his boots are the size of small boats. In his arms, cradled like something precious, is a bundle of blankets. You step closer, drawn to it, and see a tiny face peeking out, a baby, no more than a year old, with a tuft of dark hair and a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. Harry Potter. Hagrid's eyes are red, his face streaked with tears. Professor Dumbledore, sir, he says, his voice thick and rough, like he's been crying for hours. I got him. I got Harry. You feel a lump in your throat. This baby, so small and fragile, is the center of everything tonight. Hagrid hands the bundle to Dumbledore, and you notice how gentle the giant is, how his massive hands tremble as he lets go. Dumbledore takes Harry, his expression soft but resolute, and you catch a glimpse of the boy's scar again, stark against his pale skin. Is it true? Hagrid asks, his voice breaking. About Lily and James, Dumbledore nods, and Hagrid lets out a sob, loud and raw, like a wounded animal. McGonagall touches his arm, her own grief mirrored in her eyes. You stand there, an observer to their pain, feeling the weight of a tragedy you don't fully understand. The night seems colder now, the stars less comforting. Dumbledore turns toward number 4 Privet Drive, Harry still in his arms. It's time, he says softly. He walks to the doorstep, his cloak trailing behind him, and you follow, your heart heavy. The house looms ordinary and unwelcoming, its silence a stark contrast to the magic you've just witnessed. Dumbledore kneels, placing Harry gently on the step, tucking the blankets around him. He slips a letter into the folds, its parchment crisp and sealed with wax. "Good luck, Harry Potter," he whispers, and you hear the hope in his voice, the belief that this boy will survive whatever lies ahead. McGonagall watches her face tight with worry, but she doesn't speak. Hagrid sniffles, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief the size of a tablecloth. You want to say something, to ask why this has to happen, but you're just a witness caught in the story. Dumbledore stands clicking his lighter-like device again, and the streetlights flicker back to life, bathing Privet Drive in their orange glow. The magic fades, and the street looks ordinary again, as if nothing happened. The three figures turn to leave. Hagrid climbs onto his motorcycle, its engine roaring as it lifts into the sky. McGonagall shifts back into her cat form, slipping into the shadows. Dumbledore lingers a moment, his eyes on the bundle at the doorstep, then walks away, his cloak blending into the night. You stay, watching Harry alone now, under the stars. The air is still, the world quiet again, but you know this is only the beginning. Somewhere deep inside you feel it. This boy's story is far from over. You are back on Privet Drive, standing outside number 4, where the air still carries the faint chill of that starry night a decade ago. The house hasn't changed, same tidy lawn, same beige curtains, same sense of suffocating normalcy. But the baby left on the doorstep is gone, grown into a boy of 11, and you're about to step into his world. The street is quiet, the morning sun just peeking over the rooftops, painting the pavement in soft gold. You hear the clink of a milkman's bottles, the hum of a car starting down the road. It's ordinary, painfully so, but inside that house, Harry Potter's life is anything but. You slip through the front door unnoticed, and the air shifts stale heavy with the smell of bacon grease and furniture polish. The Dursley home is spotless, every surface gleaming, every picture frame perfectly aligned. The living room is crammed with knickknacks, porcelain figurines, a ticking clock, a TV blaring some morning talk show. You hear voices from the kitchen, sharp, demanding, and you follow the sound, your steps silent on the carpet. The hallway narrows and you pass a small door under the staircase, barely noticeable, its paint chipped and handle worn. A faint scuff mark catches your eye, like someone's kicked it too many times. That's where Harry lives, you realize, and the thought settles in your chest like a stone. In the kitchen, the Dursleys are in full swing. Vernon Dursley, red-faced and mustached, sits at the table, his chair creaking under his bulk. He's reading a newspaper, muttering about bloody taxes while shoveling eggs into his mouth. Petunia. His wife is at the stove, her lips pursed, her blonde hair pinned tight. She's frying bacon, the sizzle loud enough to drown out the radio. Their son, Dudley, sprawls across 2 chairs, his round face smeared with jam, as he tears into a pile of pancakes. You count the presents stacked around him, 36, maybe more, wrapped in shiny paper. It's his birthday, and the excess feels obscene, like a flaunted trophy. "Where's the boy?" Vernon barks, not looking up from his paper. Petunia glances toward the hall, her nose wrinkling. "Still in his cupboard, I expect. Lazy thing." You feel a spark of anger, sharp and hot. Harry, the boy you saw delivered to this doorstep, is treated like an afterthought. You turn back to the cupboard door drawn to it, and as you approach it, creaks open. Harry steps out small for his age, his glasses taped together, his clothes baggy and worn hand-me-downs from Dudley, 3 sizes too big. His black hair is messy, sticking up in every direction, and that lightning scar on his forehead stands out against his pale skin. His green eyes are sharp, watchful, like he's learned to expect trouble. He moves quietly, head down, and you follow him into the kitchen. The Dursleys barely acknowledge him. Petunia snaps, "Get the bacon on the table and don't burn yourself. We don't need a mess today." Harry nods silent and reaches for the pan, his hands quick but careful. You notice the way he moves efficient, practiced, like he's done this 1,000 times. He's not clumsy, despite the oversized clothes, and there's a quiet strength in him, a resilience you can feel. You stand close, catching the faint scent of soap on his skin, like he's tried to scrub away the cupboard's musty smell. The kitchen is bright, the linoleum gleaming, but it feels cold, unwelcoming. Dudley whines about wanting more presents, and Vernon chuckles, ruffling his son's hair. "Only the best for our dudders," he says, not glancing at Harry, who's setting plates with mechanical precision. You want to shout to make them see him, but you're just an observer caught in the rhythm of his life. Harry's thoughts aren't loud, but you sense them questions he's buried deep. Why does he live here? Why do the Dursleys hate him? He doesn't know about wizards or Hogwarts or the scar's meaning, but he feels different, like a piece of him doesn't fit in this polished, petty world. You remember Dumbledore's words from that night, blood magic protection, and you wonder how protection can feel so much like punishment. The morning drags on, and you follow Harry through his chores. He clears the table, washes, dishes, wipes, counters, all while Dudley opens his presents, squealing over a new bike, a video camera, a racing car set. Each gift is a reminder of what Harry doesn't have. You notice a flicker in his eyes, envy maybe, but it's quickly buried under resignation. He's used to this, you realize, and that makes it worse. Petunia announces they're going to the zoo for Dudley's birthday, and Harry's face brightens for a split second, a rare spark of hope. But Vernon grabs his shoulder hard enough to make Harry wince. "You're not to ruin this boy," he growls. "One wrong move and you're in that cupboard for a week." Harry nods, his expression blank, but you see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands curl into fists, then relax. He's learned to hide his feelings to survive. You trail them to the car, a shiny new sedan Vernon brags about to the neighbors. Harry's squeezed in the back with Dudley, who elbows him every chance he gets. The zoo is a blur of noise and color, screaming kids, the stench of popcorn, and animal pens, the heat of the sun on your neck. Harry stays quiet, sticking to the edges, his eyes wide as he watches the animals. You catch him lingering at the reptile house, staring at a boa constrictor coiled behind glass. Its eyes meet his, and for a moment you feel a connection, like they understand each other, trapped, watched, waiting for something more. Dudley bangs on the glass, shouting, "Move, you stupid snake." Harry steps back, but the snake doesn't flinch. Then, impossibly, the glass vanishes. The snake slithers out, and you hear it hiss low and deliberate, like a whispered thanks. Chaos erupts. Kids scream. Adults shout. And Dudley falls into the enclosure, trapped behind glass that's suddenly back in place. You stifle a laugh, imagining Harry's secret delight. Did he do that? He doesn't know. But the look on his face, half fear, half wonder, says he's starting to question what he's capable of. Vernon's fury is immediate. He drags Harry home, his face purple, his grip bruising. You follow, your heart sinking, as they reach Privet Drive. The door slams, and Harry's shoved toward the cupboard. "No supper," Vernon roars, and you're staying in there until you learn your place. The lock clicks, and the house falls silent, except for Dudley's whining upstairs and Petunia's cooing reassurances. You slip into the cupboard with Harry, the space so small you can feel its walls closing in. It's dark, the air thick with dust, and the faint smell of old wood. A single bulb flickers overhead, casting shadows across a lumpy mattress, a cracked mirror, a shelf of broken toys Dudley discarded. Harry sits, knees pulled to his chest, his glasses slipping down his nose. You notice the walls covered in childish drawings, stick figures of a boy with messy hair, flying on a broom surrounded by stars. He doesn't know why he draws these things, but they're a piece of who he is, a spark the Dursleys can't snuff out. You stay with him, feeling the weight of his loneliness. The house creaks, the clock ticks, and outside the world moves on. But in this cramped, forgotten space, Harry's mind is alive, turning over the day's strangeness. The snake, the glass, the way the Dursleys look at him like he's a curse. He doesn't have words for it yet, but you sense it magic, stirring inside him, waiting to break free. Hours pass, and you hear something new, a faint rustle like paper being pushed through the mail slot. Harry hears it too, his head lifting. He crawls to the door, peering through the crack, and you see it an envelope, thick and creamy, lying on the doormat. It's addressed to him in emerald green ink, and it's unlike anything he's ever seen. His fingers itch to grab it, but the lock holds him back. You feel his pulse quicken, a mix of fear and excitement. Whatever that letter is, it's the first thing in his life that's truly his. The cupboard grows quiet again, but the air feels different now, charged like it did that night on Privet Drive 10 years ago. You know what's coming, even if Harry doesn't. His story is about to change, and you're right there with him, ready to see it unfold. You're still in the cramped cupboard under the stairs at number 4 Privet Drive, the air thick with dust, and the faint creak of the house settling around you. Harry's crouched by the door, his green eyes fixed on the crack where that mysterious envelope slipped through last night. The creamy parchment, the emerald green ink, the way it was addressed to him. Mr. H. Potter, the cupboard under the stairs. It's all he can think about. You feel his pulse quickening, a mix of hope and dread, like he's on the edge of something he can't name. The Dursleys' world, with its polished surfaces and suffocating rules, feels smaller now, like a cage starting to crack. Morning light spills through the crack, and you hear the familiar sounds of the house waking up Petunia's sharp footsteps, Vernon's grumbling about the weather, Dudley's whining for breakfast. Harry straightens, brushing dust off his oversized sweater, and you notice the way his glasses slip down his nose, taped together and smudged. He's small, wiry, but there's a spark in him, the same one you saw when he stared at that snake in the zoo when the glass vanished. Whatever that letter is, it's his, and you know, he's not letting it go. The cupboard door rattles, and Petunia's voice cuts through. Up, boy. Breakfast won't cook itself. Harry scrambles out, and you follow the air shifting from musty to the sharp tang of coffee and toast in the kitchen. Vernon's at the table, his mustache twitching as he scans the newspaper, muttering about freaks causing trouble. Petunia's flipping bacon, her lips tight, and Dudley's sprawled across his chair, poking at a new toy from his birthday haul. You spot the envelope on the counter untouched, its wax seal glinting like a secret waiting to be spilled. Harry's eyes lock onto it, and you feel his heart skip. He moves toward it, casual but quick, like he's afraid it'll disappear. Is that, for me? He asks, his voice soft but steady. Vernon's head snaps up, his face reddening. What's that? He snatches the letter before Harry can touch it, his thick fingers tearing at the parchment. You see the address, the cupboard, under the stairs. And Vernon's eyes narrow like he's been caught doing something wrong. Petunia freezes spatula in hand, and you catch a flicker of fear in her expression there, and gone. Who'd be writing to you? Vernon growls, but his voice wavers. He rips the letter open, scans it, and his face turns purple, veins bulging. Nonsense. Absolute rubbish. He shoves it into his pocket, but not before you glimpse words like Hogwarts and School of Witchcraft. Harry's staring, his mouth half open, and you feel the questions piling up in his mind. What's Hogwarts? Why's Vernon so mad? Petunia steps in, her voice shrill. Vernon, burn it. Now. She's trying to sound calm, but her hands are shaking. Harry reaches out desperate. But it's mine. Vernon shoves him back hard, and you wince, feeling the sting of rejection. No letters for you, boy, he snaps. And no more of this rubbish. You want to grab the letter to hand it to Harry, but you're just a witness caught in the chaos. Vernon storms to the fireplace, tossing the letter into the flames. The parchment curls blackens and you smell the sharp bite of burning paper. Harry's face falls, but his eyes don't leave the fire, like he's memorizing the moment. You sense it. He knows this isn't over. The day drags on, and you follow Harry through his chores, scrubbing dishes, weeding the garden, fetching Vernon's slippers. The Dursleys act like nothing happened, but the air's tense like a storm's brewing. Vernon keeps glancing at the front door. Petunia jumps at every noise, and Dudley for once seems uneasy, clutching his toys like they'll protect him. You notice Harry stealing looks at the mail slot, waiting. The next morning, you're back in the hallway, the house still dark. The mail slot clatters and another envelope lands on the mat identical to the first, same green ink, same address. Harry's out of the cupboard in a flash, his bare feet silent on the floor. You're right behind him, your heart racing as he grabs the letter, his fingers trembling. He's about to tear it open when Vernon's bellow shakes the house. "Boy!" Harry freezes, and you see the panic in his eyes. Vernon charges down the stairs, his bathrobe flapping, and snatches the letter. "Not again," he roars, ripping it to pieces. Harry's voice is small but firm. "Why can't I have it?" Vernon's face twists, and for a moment you think he might hit him. Instead, he shoves Harry toward the cupboard. "No questions. Get in there." The door slams, the lock clicks, and you're back in that cramped, dusty space. Harry's breath ragged beside you. You feel his frustration, his confusion, like a fire he doesn't know how to control. But the letters keep coming. The next day, 3 arrive, slipping through the mail slot like they're mocking Vernon's rage. You're in the living room watching Harry sweep the floor when Vernon grabs them, his hands shaking as he feeds them to the shredder. Petunia's pale muttering about those people, and you catch the fear in her voice like she knows something Harry doesn't. Harry's watching his jaw tight, and you sense his determination growing, a quiet rebellion taking root. By the 4th day, it's chaos. You're in the hallway, the morning light dim through the curtains when the mail slot erupts. Dozens of letters pour in, fluttering like a flock of birds, their parchment crisp and heavy. They pile on the mat, spill across the floor, and you hear more scratching, rustling inside the walls, the chimney, the vents. Harry's eyes widen, a mix of awe and fear, and you feel it too, the sheer force of whatever's behind this. Owls, you realize, though, you don't know how, you know. They're out there delivering these letters, refusing to be stopped. Vernon's apoplectic, his face a shade of plum. "Enough," he screams, grabbing a broom and swatting at the letters like they're pests. Petunia's shrieking, Dudley's hiding under the table, and Harry's standing in the middle of it, letters swirling around him. He grabs one, then another, clutching them to his chest. You see the words Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and your skin prickles. This is his destiny, knocking louder every day. Vernon wrestles the letters away, tearing them, burning them, but it's no use. The next morning, you're in the kitchen, the house a mess of shredded parchment and overturned chairs, when hundreds more arrive. They burst through the chimney cascade from the ceiling, flood the hallway. You laugh a low chuckle, imagining Vernon thinking he could outsmart magic. It's like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. Harry's laughing too, a rare bright sound, and you feel his hope flare sharp and unstoppable. Vernon's had enough. You watch him pack the family into the car, his face grim, Petunia clutching her purse like a lifeline, Dudley whining about his Game Boy. Harry's shoved in the back, no explanation, no choice. "We're leaving," Vernon snaps. "No more of this nonsense." You follow them, the car speeding out of Privet Drive, the letters still fluttering in the rearview mirror. The Dursleys think they can run, but you know better. Magic doesn't give up. The journey's a blur. Motorways, back roads, the smell of exhaust and fast food. You're with Harry squeezed against the window watching the world blur by. He's quiet, but his mind's racing, turning over the word Hogwarts. the feel of that parchment in his hands. Night falls and Vernon pulls into a rundown hotel, its neon sign flickering. You slip inside the lobby reeking of stale cigarettes and mildew. Harry's given a cot in a cramped room, the Dursleys snoring nearby. You stay close, feeling his restlessness the way he stares. Warning. The response has reached the maximum token limit and has been truncated. To provide a complete answer, I'll continue from where it left off and ensure all requested artifacts. Sections 120 has separate text files and the outline are included. Adhering to the instructions, each section has a separate, with only the script content. No word count, no section headings, no extra text, and the outline is a concise, unnumbered list. The canvas panel on the right should display a white screen for easy download of each file. Continuation of response. Continuing from the truncated script for Section 3. Here are the complete scripts for Sections 3 through 20 Formatted as individual, tags each containing only the script content as requested. The outline artifact is already provided above, and the previously included Section 1. And Section 2. Artifacts remain valid. Each artifact has a unique UID for Artifact DA's descriptive title, e.g., Section 3, Text T, and Content Type, Text Plain. The canvas panel should render these as downloadable text files. You're still in the cramped cupboard under the stairs at number 4 Privet Drive, the air thick with dust, and the faint creak of the house settling around you. Harry's crouched by the door, his green eyes fixed on the crack where that mysterious envelope slipped through last night. The creamy parchment, the emerald green ink, the way it was addressed to him, Mr. H. Potter. The cupboard, under the stairs. It's all he can think about. You feel his pulse quickening, a mix of hope and dread, like he's on the edge of something he can't name. The Dursleys' world with its polished surfaces and suffocating rules feels smaller now, like a cage starting to crack. Morning light spills through the crack, and you hear the familiar sounds of the house waking up Petunia's sharp footsteps, Vernon's grumbling about the weather, Dudley's whining for breakfast. Harry straightens brushing dust off his oversized sweater, and you notice the way his glasses slip down his nose, taped together and smudged. He's small, wiry, but there's a spark in him, the same one you saw when he stared at that snake in the zoo when the glass vanished. Whatever that letter is, it's his, and you know he's not letting it go. The cupboard door rattles, and Petunia's voice cuts through. "Up, boy, breakfast won't cook itself." Harry scrambles out, and you follow the air shifting from musty to the sharp tang of coffee and toast in the kitchen. Vernon's at the table, his mustache twitching as he scans the newspaper, muttering about freaks causing trouble. Petunia's flipping bacon, her lips tight, and Dudley's sprawled across his chair, poking at a new toy from his birthday haul. You spot the envelope on the counter untouched, its wax seal glinting like a secret waiting to be spilled. Harry's eyes lock onto it, and you feel his heart skip. He moves toward it, casual but quick, like he's afraid it'll disappear. "Is that for me?" he asks, his voice soft but steady. Vernon's head snaps up, his face reddening. "What's that?" He snatches the letter before Harry can touch it, his thick fingers tearing at the parchment. You see the address, the cupboard. Under the stairs, and Vernon's eyes narrow like he's been caught doing something wrong. Petunia freezes spatula in hand, and you catch a flicker of fear in her expression, there and gone. Who'd be writing to you? Vernon growls, but his voice wavers. He rips the letter open, scans it, and his face turns purple veins bulging. Nonsense. Absolute rubbish. He shoves it into his pocket, but not before you glimpse words like Hogwarts and School of Witchcraft. Harry's staring, his mouth half open, and you feel the questions piling up in his mind. What's Hogwarts? Why's Vernon so mad? Petunia steps in, her voice shrill. Vernon, burn it. Now. She's trying to sound calm, but her hands are shaking. Harry reaches out desperate. But it's mine. Vernon shoves him back hard, and you wince, feeling the sting of rejection. No letters for you, boy, he snaps. And no more of this rubbish. You want to grab the letter to hand it to Harry, but you're just a witness caught in the chaos. Vernon storms to the fireplace, tossing the letter into the flames. The parchment curls, blackens, and you smell the sharp bite of burning paper. Harry's face falls, but his eyes don't leave the fire like he's memorizing the moment. You sense it. He knows this isn't over. The day drags on, and you follow Harry through his chores, scrubbing dishes, weeding the garden, fetching Vernon's slippers. The Dursleys act like nothing happened, but the air's tense like a storm's brewing. Vernon keeps glancing at the front door. Petunia jumps at every noise, and Dudley, for once, seems uneasy, clutching his toys like they'll protect him. You notice Harry stealing looks at the mail slot, hoping, waiting. The next morning, you're back in the hallway, the house still dark. The mail slot clatters, and another envelope lands on the mat identical to the first, same green ink, same address. Harry's out of the cupboard in a flash, his bare feet silent on the floor. You're right behind him, your heart racing as he grabs the letter, his fingers trembling. He's about to tear it open when Vernon's bellow shakes the house. Boy, Harry freezes, and you see the panic in his eyes. Vernon charges down the stairs, his bathrobe flapping, and snatches the letter. Not again, he roars, ripping it to pieces. Harry's voice is small but firm. Why can't I have it? Vernon's face twists, and for a moment you think he might hit him. Instead, he shoves Harry toward the cupboard. No questions. Get in there. The door slams, the lock clicks, and you're back in that cramped, dusty space. Harry's breath ragged beside you. You feel his frustration, his confusion like a fire he doesn't know how to control. But the letters keep coming. The next day, 3 arrive, slipping through the mail slot like they're mocking Vernon's rage. You're in the living room watching Harry sweep the floor when Vernon grabs them, his hands shaking as he feeds them to the shredder. Petunia's pale muttering about those people, and you catch the fear in her voice like she knows something Harry doesn't. Harry's watching, his jaw tight, and you sense his determination growing, a quiet rebellion taking root. By the 4th day, it's chaos. You're in the hallway, the morning light dim through the curtains when the mail slot erupts. Dozens of letters pour in, fluttering like a flock of birds, their parchment crisp and heavy. They pile on the mat, spill across the floor, and you hear more scratching, rustling inside the walls, the chimney, the vents. Harry's eyes widen, a mix of awe and fear, and you feel it too, the sheer force of whatever's behind this. Owls, you realize, though. You don't know how you know. They're out there delivering these letters, refusing to be stopped. Vernon's apoplectic, his face a shade of plum. Enough, he screams, grabbing a broom and swatting at the letters like they're pests. Petunia's shrieking, Dudley's hiding under the table, and Harry's standing in the middle of it, letters swirling around him. He grabs one, then another, clutching them to his chest. You see the words, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and your skin prickles. This is his destiny, knocking louder every day. Vernon wrestles the letters away, tearing them, burning them, but it's no use. The next morning, you're in the kitchen, the house a mess of shredded parchment and overturned chairs, when hundreds more arrive. They burst through the chimney cascade from the ceiling, flood the hallway. You laugh, a low chuckle, imagining Vernon thinking he could outsmart magic. It's like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. Harry's laughing too, a rare bright sound, and you feel his hope flare sharp and unstoppable. Vernon's had enough. You watch him pack the family into the car, his face grim, Petunia, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Dudley whining about his Game Boy. Harry's shoved in the back, no explanation, no choice. "We're leaving Vernon," snaps. No more of this nonsense. You follow them, the car speeding out of Privet Drive, the letters still fluttering in the rearview mirror. The Dursleys think they can run, but you know better. Magic doesn't give up. The journey's a blur. Motorways, back roads, the smell of exhaust and fast food. You're with Harry, squeezed against the window watching the world blur by. He's quiet, but his mind's racing, turning over the word Hogwarts, the feel of that parchment in his hands. Night falls and Vernon pulls into a rundown hotel, its neon sign flickering. You slip inside the lobby, reeking of stale cigarettes and mildew. Harry's given a cot in a cramped room, the Dursleys snoring nearby. You stay close, feeling his restlessness the way he stares at the ceiling, waiting. Morning comes, and you're in the hotel dining room, the air heavy with the smell of burnt toast. Vernon's smug, thinking he's won, but then a maid knocks, holding a stack of letters. "For a Mr. H. Potter," she says, confused. Vernon's face collapses, and you feel a surge of triumph. The letters are addressed to the hotel, to this exact room. Harry reaches for them, but Vernon's faster, shoving them into a trash can. "We're moving." He growls. "Somewhere they can't find us." The car speeds on, and you're with Harry, the landscape growing wilder. Cliffs see the tang of salt in the air. Vernon's desperate now, his knuckles white on the wheel. He stops at a rocky coast where a shack perches on a jagged island, reachable only by a rickety boat. You feel the spray of the ocean, the bite of the wind, as they row across, Harry shivering in his thin jacket. The shack's a wreck. Rotting wood, leaking roof, the smell of seaweed and damp. Vernon locks Harry in a corner, muttering about no more letters. You stay with Harry, the storm raging outside, waves crashing against the rocks. He's curled up on a moldy blanket, his scar aching his mind alive with questions. The Dursleys think they've escaped, but you know what's coming. The letters are a promise, a call, and something bigger is on its way. You feel it in the air, like the charge before lightning. Harry's destiny is closing in, and nothing, not Vernon, not this shack, can stop it. You're inside the rickety shack on the rocky island, the storm howling outside like a living thing. The air is damp, heavy with the smell of seaweed and rotting wood, and the walls creak with every gust that slams against them. Waves crash against the cliffs, their roar shaking the floor, and you feel the cold seeping through the cracks, biting at your skin. Harry's curled up in a corner, his thin frame shivering under a moldy blanket, his glasses fogged from the damp. You see the lightning scar on his forehead stark against his pale skin, and you sense his restlessness. His mind still racing with thoughts of those letters, Hogwarts, witchcraft, words that don't fit in the Dursleys' world. The letters stopped coming when Vernon dragged the family here, but you know deep down that this isn't the end. Something's coming, and the air hums with it like the charge before a lightning strike. The Dursleys are huddled nearby, Vernon clutching a rifle he doesn't know how to use, Petunia fussing over Dudley, who's whining about the cold and his lack of snacks. You catch Harry glancing at his cousin who's wrapped in every spare blanket, and you feel a pang of his resentment, not just for Dudley's comfort, but for the life he's never had. It's nearly midnight, and you hear Harry counting the seconds in his head, marking the moment he turns 11. He doesn't expect anything from it, not after years of forgotten birthdays, but you sense a flicker of hope in him, faint but stubborn like the spark you saw in the cupboard. The storm grows louder, the wind screaming through the gaps in the shack. You hear a faint tick, 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 Dudley's watch counting down to midnight. Harry's eyes are fixed on it, his breath shallow, and you feel the weight of this moment like the world's holding its breath. Then, as the watch hits 12, a sound cuts through the storm, a thud, heavy and deliberate, like a fist against the door. The shack shakes and you jump, your heart pounding. Vernon grips his rifle, his face pale, and Petunia stifles a scream. Harry's frozen, his eyes wide, and you feel his fear, his curiosity, his readiness for whatever's on the other side. Another thud, louder, and the door rattles on its hinges. "Who's there?" Vernon shouts, his voice cracking. No answer, just a third thud, and the door explodes inward, splintering like it's made of matchsticks. You duck instinctively, the wind rushing in, carrying salt and rain. A figure fills the doorway, massive, blotting out the storm. He's a giant, easily 8 feet tall, his wild black hair and beard dripping with seawater, his coat patched and worn. His eyes, small but kind, scan the room, and you smell leather and earth on him like a forest after a downpour. This is Hagrid, though you don't know his name yet, and his presence is like a force of nature, unstoppable. You stand in awe, your breath catching, and you see Harry's mouth drop open, his glasses slipping down his nose. The Dursleys are terrified. Vernon's rifle shakes in his hands, Petunia's clutching Dudley, who's whimpering like a scolded puppy. Hagrid steps inside, ducking under the low ceiling, and the floor groans under his weight. He brushes splinters off his coat casual, like he knocks down doors every day, and you catch a glint of humor in his eyes, like he knows how ridiculous this looks. "Sorry about that," he says, his voice a deep rumble, thick with an accent you can't quite place. "Bit of a rough night, innit?" You chuckle softly, imagining Vernon, thinking his rifle could stop a man like this. It's like bringing a toothpick to a bear fight. Harry's staring, half hidden behind a crate, and you feel his heart racing, a mix of fear and fascination. Hagrid's eyes find him, and his face softens, a smile breaking through the tangle of his beard. "Harry Potter," he says, like he's greeting an old friend. "Happy birthday." You feel the words hit Harry like a wave, his eyes widening. No one's ever said that to him, not like this, not with warmth. Vernon sputters, raising the rifle. "Stay back. I'll shoot, I swear." Hagrid doesn't even glance at him, just reaches out, grabs the rifle, and bends it into a knot with one hand, like it's made of rubber. He tosses it aside, and it clatters into a corner, useless. Vernon's jaw drops, and you feel a surge of satisfaction. Finally, someone's putting the Dursleys in their place. Hagrid turns back to Harry, pulling a squashed box from his coat. "Got summit for you," he says, handing it over. Harry takes it, his hands trembling, and you lean closer, catching the sweet smell of chocolate and sugar. Inside is a cake, lopsided with green icing spelling out, "Happy Birthday, Harry." It's messy homemade, but to Harry it's everything. You see his throat tighten, his eyes glistening, and you feel the weight of his loneliness, the years of being invisible, cracking under this small act of kindness. Who are you?" Harry asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Hagrid grins, sitting on a crate that groans under him. "Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts. And you, Harry, you're a wizard." The word lands like a thunderclap. You feel it ripple through Harry. His breath catching his mind, scrambling to make sense of it. A wizard. Him. The boy from the cupboard. The one the Dursleys call worthless. You see his disbelief, his hope, his fear, all colliding. Vernon's shouting now, his voice shrill. He's no wizard. He's nothing. We swore we'd stamp that nonsense out of him. Petunia's nodding, her face pinched, but you catch her fear again, deeper now, like she's hiding something. Hagrid's eyes darken, and you feel his anger controlled, but fierce. "You knew," he growls, standing his head, brushing the ceiling. "You knew he was a wizard, and you kept it from him, kept him in a cupboard like a dog." He pulls a pink umbrella from his coat, and you sense something powerful in it, like it's more than it seems. Vernon flinches, and Petunia pulls Dudley closer. Harry's staring at Hagrid, his cake forgotten. "A wizard," he says, testing the word. "But how, why me?" Hagrid softens, kneeling to Harry's level, his massive hand gentle on the boy's shoulder. "Your parents, Harry, Lily, and James, they were a witch and wizard, some of the best I ever knew. And you're famous in our world. Everyone knows your name." You feel Harry's world tilt the pieces of his life, the scar, the snake, the letters falling into place. You remember that night on Privet Drive Dumbledore's words about blood magic, and you realize this is what the Dursleys were running from. Hagrid pulls out a letter, identical to the ones Vernon burned, and hands it to Harry. You see the emerald ink, the Hogwarts crest, and you feel Harry's hand shake as he opens it. The words spill out acceptance to Hogwarts, a school for magic, a place where he belongs. Vernon tries one last stand. "He's not going. I forbid it." Hagrid's laugh is a low rumble, and he points the umbrella at Dudley, who's peeking out from behind Petunia. A spark flies, and Dudley squeals, sprouting a pig's tail. You stifle a grin, imagining him explaining that at school. The Dursleys scream, and Hagrid turns to Harry, ignoring them. "Time to go, Harry. Got a lot to show ye." Harry hesitates, glancing at the Dursleys, the shack, the life he's known. You feel his fear of the unknown, but stronger is his hunger for answers, for a place where he's not invisible. He nods, clutching the letter, and you see the spark in his eyes flare bright and fierce. Hagrid leads him to the door, the storm still raging, and you follow the air electric with possibility. Harry's stepping into his destiny, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're standing beside Harry, the storm's roar, fading behind you as the rickety boat rocks across the choppy sea, carrying you away from the shack and the Dursleys' grasp. The salty spray stings your face, and you feel Harry's pulse racing, his hands clutching that Hogwarts letter like it's a lifeline. Hagrid's at the oars, his massive frame steady against the waves, his beard dripping with seawater. The memory of his words, "You're a wizard." Harry still hums in the air, and you sense Harry's mind spinning, caught between disbelief and a hunger for this new world. The horizon glows with the first light of dawn, and you know you're heading somewhere extraordinary, a place where the letter's promise will come alive. The scene shifts, and you're in London now, the city's hum replacing the ocean's roar. It's morning, the streets alive with honking taxis, the smell of exhaust and fresh coffee, and the chatter of pedestrians rushing to work. You follow Harry and Hagrid through the crowd, Harry's oversized clothes flapping as he hurries to keep up with the giant's long strides. His glasses slip down his nose, and you notice his eyes wide green, drinking in everything. He's never been to a city like this, never felt so small, yet so alive. You feel his nervous excitement like a kid stepping into a story he's only dreamed about. Hagrid leads you to a dingy pub, its sign reading, "The Leaky Cauldron," tucked between a bookstore and a record shop. It's the kind of place you'd walk past without a second glance, its windows grimy, its door creaking. Inside, the air is warm, thick, with the smell of ale wood smoke, and something sweet like baking bread. The pub's crowded, but not with the usual city types. You see people in cloaks, pointed hats, even a woman with a toad perched on her shoulder. They're witches and wizards, you realize, and the air crackles with a strange energy like a static before a storm. Harry's staring, his mouth half open, and you feel his awe, his sense that he's crossed a line into a world that's always been there hidden. The bartender. Tom spots Hagrid and grins, his bald head gleaming. Hagrid, usual. Then Hagrid waves him off, chuckling. "Not today, Tom. Got important business with young Harry here." The room quiets. Heads turning, and you see eyes lock onto Harry, onto that lightning scar peeking out from his messy hair. Whispers ripple through the crowd, Harry Potter. The boy who lived. You feel. Harry shrink under the stairs, his cheeks flushing, and you sense his confusion. Famous. for what he doesn't know the weight of his name, not yet. A man in a turban stammers forward, shaking Harry's hand. Professor Quirrell, he introduces himself, his voice nervous. Teach at Hogwarts. An honor Potter. Others follow, crowding around, thanking Harry for something he doesn't understand. You catch Hagrid's protective glance, and he ushers Harry through a back door, muttering, "Blimey, can't get a moment's peace." You follow the pub's warmth, fading as you step into a cramped courtyard, nothing but brick walls and trash cans. Hagrid pulls out his pink umbrella, and you remember the pig's tail. He gave Dudley a spark of magic that still makes you grin. He taps the bricks in a pattern up-down, left-right, and you watch, stunned, as the wall shudders, bricks sliding apart like a puzzle unlocking. Light spills through, and you're staring into Diagon Alley, a street that shouldn't exist, alive with color and sound. You feel Harry's breath catch his heart pounding, and you're right there with him, your own senses reeling. Diagon Alley is a riot of magic. Cobblestone paths twist between shops, their signs swinging. Elop's Owl Emporium. Flourish and Blot's, Gringotts Wizarding Bank. You smell fresh ink, roasting chestnuts, and something sharp like herbs burning. Owls hoot from cages, broomsticks gleam in shop windows, and cloaked figures barter over cauldrons and spellbooks. A kid runs past, clutching a glowing orb that hums softly, and you hear a vendor shout about dragon liver fresh. Today, Harry's eyes dart everywhere, and you feel his wonder like he's stepped into one of those drawings from his cupboard, the ones with flying brooms and starry skies. Hagrid steers Harry toward Gringotts, its white marble facade towering over the street, guarded by goblins in scarlet uniforms. You notice their sharp eyes, their clawed fingers, and you feel a prickle of unease. They're not human, not quite. Inside, the bank's vast, its chandeliers glittering, its counters lined with goblins scribbling in ledgers. You smell wax and old coins, and you hear the scratch of quills, the clink of gold. Hagrid hands over a key, and a goblin named Griphook leads you to the vaults down a twisting rail cart that rattles through caverns deep underground. The air grows cold, damp, and you feel Harry's mix of thrill and fear as the cart lurches, his knuckles white. In the vault, you see piles of gold, silver, and bronze coins, galleons, sickles, knuts left by Harry's parents. He's stunned, his hands trembling as he fills a bag, and you feel his disbelief. Money, a fortune. He's never had more than pocket change, and now he's rich. You sense his guilt too, wondering about the parents he never knew, the ones Hagrid called the best. You remember Dumbledore's words that night on Privet Drive, Lily and James gone, and you feel the weight of their absence in Harry's silence. Back in the alley, Hagrid leads you to the shops, and Diagon Alley's magic unfolds. At Madame Malkin's, you watch Harry get fitted for robes, the fabric soft and black, a far cry from Dudley's hand-me-downs. The seamstress's pins move on their own, and you catch Harry's grin, small but real, as he sees himself in the mirror, a wizard, not a nobody. You smell lavender and new cloth, and you feel his growing sense of belonging, like he's finally where he's meant to be. At Flourish and Blot's, you're surrounded by books that whisper and flutter their titles, like Standard Book of Spells and A History of Magic. The air's thick with dust and parchment, and you see Harry's curiosity flare, his fingers tracing the spines. He's never had books of his own, and you feel his hunger to learn, to understand this world. Hagrid buys his school supplies, quills ink, a cauldron, and you notice Harry clutching them like they're proof this isn't a dream. The owl shop is next, and you're hit with the smell of feathers and straw, the sound of hoots and flapping wings. Owls perch in cages, their eyes glinting snowy tawny barn. Hagrid picks a white one, Hedwig, and you see Harry's face light up as she nips his finger gently. "She's yours," Hagrid says. And you feel Harry's heart swell, his first real gift since that lopsided birthday cake. You know Hedwig's more than a pet. She's a friend, a piece of this world he can hold on to. Finally, you reach Ollivander's, a narrow shop with a dusty sign. Makers of fine wands. Since 382 BC. The air inside is still heavy with the scent of wood and polish, and you feel a hush like the shop's alive. Mr. Ollivander, pale and silvery, greets Harry with eerie calm, his eyes lingering on the scar. "I wondered when I'd see you, Mr. Potter," he says, and you feel a chill like he knows more than he's saying. He hands Harry wand after wand, beech, oak, maple, but none fit sparking or fizzling. You see Harry's frustration, his fear that he's not a wizard after all. Then Ollivander pulls a wand from a faded box holly 11 inches with a phoenix feather core. Harry takes it, and the room glows a warm wind, swirling the wand, humming in his hand. You feel its power like it's part of him, and you see Harry's awe, his certainty that this is right. Ollivander's voice drops, almost a whisper. "Curious. Very curious. The phoenix whose feather is in your wand gave another feather, just one other, to the wand that gave you that scar." You feel Harry's pulse quicken the weight of a past he doesn't yet understand. Hagrid claps Harry's shoulder, breaking the tension. "Right, that's enough magic for one day. Train leaves tomorrow. You follow them out. Diagon alleys bustle, wrapping around you, the sounds of laughter and bartering filling the air. Harry's clutching his wand, his owl cage, his new life, and you feel his transformation, still a boy, but a wizard, now stepping into a world that's claimed him. You know this is just the beginning, and you're ready to see where it leads. You're standing on the bustling platform at King's Cross Station, the air thick with the smell of coal-smoke coffee and warm pastries from a nearby cart. The station hums with life announcements crackle overhead, suitcases rattle, and commuters rush past their voices, blending into a steady drone. You're beside Harry, who's clutching a trolley loaded with his new school supplies, a cauldron books, robes, and Hedwig's cage, her snowy feathers gleaming as she hoots softly. His wand is tucked safely in his pocket, and you feel its faint warmth, a reminder of the magic he's only beginning to understand. The Hogwarts letter is folded in his bag, its emerald ink promising a world beyond the Dursleys' reach. You sense Harry's nerves, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. He's never been this far from Privet Drive, never had a destination that felt like it could be home. It's September 1st, and the platform is chaos, but Harry's searching for platform 9 3/4, a name that sounded impossible when Hagrid mentioned it in Diagon Alley. You see the confusion in his green eyes, half hidden behind taped-together glasses, as he scans the signs. Platform 9, Platform 10, but nothing in between. The clock ticks closer to 11, and you feel his panic rising, a familiar echo of the cupboard's claustrophobia. He's alone again, or so he thinks, and you want to nudge him forward to tell him he's closer than he knows. Then you hear it, a voice loud and warm, cutting through the crowd. Packed with muggles, of course. You turn and there's a plump woman with red hair herding 4 boys and a girl toward the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. The boys look like brothers, all freckled with the same unruly red hair. 2 are older twins, their grins mischievous. One's younger, gangly, with a smudge of dirt on his nose. And the girl, the youngest, clings to her mother's hand. You catch Harry's stare, drawn to their warmth, their easy laughter, so unlike the Dursleys' coldness. You feel his longing, a pang for something he's never had. The woman, Mrs. Weasley, notices Harry's hesitation. First time at Hogwarts, dear, she asks, her voice kind but brisk. Harry nods shy, and you see her eyes linger on his scar, though she doesn't mention it. Right then, watch my boys, it's simple. She points to the barrier, a solid brick wall, and you feel Harry's doubt, his fear of looking foolish. The twins, Fred and George, go first, pushing their trolleys at a run, and you watch stunned as they vanish into the wall like it's made of air. Harry's mouth drops, and you feel his awe, the same rush you felt when Diagon Alley's bricks parted. "Go on, dear," Mrs. Weasley says, giving Harry a gentle push. "Just walk straight at it, don't stop." Harry takes a breath, his hands tight on the trolley, and you move with him, the station's noise fading as he picks up speed. The wall looms solid and unyielding, but he doesn't slow. You feel his trust fragile but growing, and then you're through the brick, dissolving into a warm, smoky haze. You're on platform 9 3/4, and the world shifts. The platform is alive, bathed in sunlight, filtering through a glass canopy. A scarlet steam train, the Hogwarts Express, gleams along the tracks, its engine puffing clouds of white smoke that smell faintly of burning wood. Owls hoot from cages. Cats weave through the crowd, and students in black robes laugh and shout, their voices bright with excitement. You see trunks being loaded, parents hugging kids goodbye, and a vendor selling sweets that spark and fizz. The air hums with magic, and you feel Harry's heart leap. This is real, not a dream, and he's part of it. Mrs. Weasley's youngest son, Ron, lingers nearby, his robes slightly too big, his face flushed as he says goodbye to his family. You notice Harry watching him, drawn to his awkwardness. His lack of polish, it's familiar, like looking in a mirror. Ron spots Harry, hesitates, then approaches. Mind if I sit with you?" he asks, nodding toward the train. Harry nods, relieved, and you feel the first thread of a connection, fragile but real. You follow them onto the train, the corridor narrow and swaying, the air warm with the smell of polished wood and new fabric. Compartments are filling fast, but Harry and Ron find an empty one, sliding their trunks onto the racks. Hedwig's cage sits between them, and you notice Ron's rat scabbers poking out of his pocket, its whiskers twitching. The seats are plush red, and you hear the train whistle sharp and clear as it lurches forward. Through the window, you see the platform recede, Mrs. Weasley waving her red hair bright against the crowd. Harry's quiet, staring out at the blurring city, and you feel his mix of freedom and fear. He's leaving everything he knows, for better or worse. Ron breaks the silence, his voice shy but curious. "Are you really Harry Potter?" You see Harry tense his hand, brushing his scar, but he nods. Ron's eyes widen, and he leans forward. "Blimey, you've got the scar and everything. Do you remember? You know him." You feel Harry's unease, the weight of a past. He doesn't understand, but he shakes his head. "I was just a baby." Ron's disappointed but doesn't push, and you sense Harry's relief, his gratitude for someone who doesn't stare. The conversation shifts, and you listen as Ron talks about his family, 5 brothers, a sister, a house bursting with noise and hand-me-downs. You feel Harry's envy, not for wealth, but for the chaos, the belonging. Ron's embarrassed about his patched robes, his second-hand wand, but Harry doesn't care. You sense his warmth toward Ron, his first real friend. They share sweets from the trolley lady, and you smell chocolate sugar, and something fizzy as Ron marvels at chocolate frogs, their cards showing famous wizards. Harry gets Dumbledore's card, and you remember that night on Privet Drive, his cloak sweeping as he left Harry on the doorstep. Harry stares at the card, and you feel his curiosity, a question forming about the man who shaped his fate. The compartment door slides open, and you turn to see a girl with bushy brown hair and large front teeth, her robes crisp, her voice sharp. "Have you seen a toad, a boy named Neville's lost one?" This is Hermione Granger, though you don't know her name yet, and you feel her confidence, her need to prove herself. Ron mutters about scabbers, but Hermione's eyes narrow at their candy wrappers. "You're not eating all that, are you? It'll ruin your appetite." You chuckle softly, imagining her organizing the whole train by lunchtime. She's got that kind of energy. Hermione spots Harry's scar, and her eyes widen. "You're Harry Potter." I've read about you in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts." Harry shifts uncomfortable, but you feel his surprised books about him. Hermione's already talking about Hogwarts rattling off houses and spells, and you sense Ron's annoyance, his sense of being outshone. She notices Ron's wand poking out of his pocket and raises an eyebrow. "Are you doing magic? Let's see then." Ron, flustered, tries a fake spell to turn Scabbers yellow, and you stifle a grin when nothing happens. Hermione rolls her eyes, then demonstrates a real spell, fixing Harry's glasses with a flick of her wand. "Oculus reparo," she says, and you feel the air hum the glass knitting together. Harry's stunned, and you sense his awe magic right in front of him, not just a story. Hermione leaves to find Neville's toad, and you feel the dynamic shift. Ron's a friend. Hermione's a challenge, but both are part of this world Harry's entering. The train rolls on the landscape, shifting to green hills, the air cooler now smelling of grass and earth. You hear whispers of magic from other compartments, spells, laughter, the clink of gobstones. Harry's quiet eating a Bertie Bott's every flavor. You wince when it's earwax, but you feel his mind racing, piecing together this new life. He's not the boy from the cupboard anymore, not entirely. The train slows, and you see lights twinkling in the distance. Hogsmeade Station, the gateway to Hogwarts. The air's alive with anticipation, and you hear Hagrid's voice outside calling for first years. Harry and Ron grab their things, Hedwig, hooting Scabbers, scurrying into Ron's pocket. You follow them off the train, the platform cold and misty, the smell of pine and damp stone filling your lungs. Harry's scar tingles, and you feel his nerves, his readiness for what's next. This journey's just the start, and you know Hogwarts is waiting its secrets ready to unfold. You're stepping off the Hogwarts Express, the misty air of Hogsmeade Station wrapping around you, cool and sharp with the scent of pine and damp earth. The platform buzzes with students, their voices echoing as they scatter into the night, but you stay close to Harry, his small frame dwarfed by the crowd. His glasses catch the lantern light, and you feel his nerves a tight knot in his chest as Hagrid's booming voice calls, "First years." This way. You see Ron nearby, his red hair bright, even in the fog, and Hermione, her bushy hair bouncing as she hurries to keep up, still muttering about spells she read on the train. Harry's clutching Hedwig's cage, the owl's soft hoots grounding him, and you sense his awe, his fear. This is Hogwarts, the place those letters promised, and it's real. Hagrid leads you down a narrow path, the ground uneven underfoot, the air growing colder as you near a vast lake. Its surface is black, rippling under the moon, and you smell wet stone and moss. Boats wait at the shore, small and wooden, their lanterns casting golden flickers across the water. "No more'n 4 to a boat," Hagrid shouts, climbing into one alone, his weight making it creak. You join Harry, Ron, and Hermione in another, a boy named Neville, squeezing in, still sniffling about his lost toad. The boats glide forward, no oars, no motor, just magic, and you feel Harry's breath catch as Hogwarts Castle comes into view. It's breathtaking, a sprawl of towers and turrets piercing the starry sky, its windows glowing like 1,000 eyes. You hear the collective gasp of the first years, and you feel Harry's heart race, his mind struggling to take it in. This isn't just a school, it's a world alive and ancient, its walls humming with secrets. The boats dock at a rocky harbor, and you climb stone steps, the air now warm with the promise of shelter. Hagrid knocks on a massive oak door, and it swings open, revealing Professor McGonagall, her emerald robes crisp, her face stern but familiar. You remember her from that night on Privet Drive, her cat form slipping into the shadows, and you feel a thread of continuity, like the stories circling back. McGonagall leads you into a small chamber, its walls lined with flickering torches, the air heavy with wax and old stone. The first years huddle together, and you feel Harry's nerves spike, his hands, fidgeting with his robes, new black, a far cry from Dudley's cast-offs. McGonagall explains the sorting ceremony, her voice sharp but steady. 4 houses, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, each with its own legacy. You sense Harry's confusion, his fear of not fitting in, and you notice Ron whispering about Slytherin's bad reputation, his voice low but urgent. Hermione's reciting house traits under her breath, and you chuckle softly, imagining her memorizing the entire Hogwarts rulebook by morning. She's got that kind of drive. The chamber doors open, and you follow McGonagall into the Great Hall, the heart of Hogwarts. It's vast, its ceiling enchanted to mirror the night sky, stars twinkling above, floating candles that drip no wax. You smell roast beef, fresh bread, and something sweet like treacle tart, as 4 long tables stretch the length of the hall, packed with students in black robes, their house crests gleaming. Ghosts glide among them, translucent and chatting their voices like a soft wind. You see Harry's eyes widen, his mouth half open, and you feel his wonder, his sense that he stepped into a dream he never wants to wake from. At the front, a high table holds the teacher's Dumbledore, his silver beard catching the candlelight. Quirrell, his turban slightly askew. Snape, his dark eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk. You feel Harry's unease under Snape's gaze, a prickle at his scar, though he doesn't know why. McGonagall places a stool and an old patched hat, the sorting hat, before the hall, and you hear a murmur ripple through the students. The hat twitches its brim, splitting like a mouth, and it sings its voice gravelly but clear, weaving a tale of Hogwarts founders, their virtues, their houses. You feel Harry's pulse quicken, his fear of being judged, of being sent back to Privet Drive if he fails this test. The sorting begins, and you stand with Harry, the crowd of first years shrinking as names are called. Hermione goes to Gryffindor, her face lighting up as the table cheers. A boy named Draco Malfoy, pale and sneering, struts to Slytherin, and you notice Harry's frown, remembering Draco's arrogance in Diagon Alley. Ron's called, and you feel Harry's worry for his friend, but Ron's sorted into Gryffindor, his relief palpable as he joins Hermione. Neville stumbles to Hufflepuff, and you sense Harry's growing isolation, the weight of his name pressing down as whispers of Potter spread. When McGonagall calls Harry Potter, the hall falls silent, every eye on him. You feel his legs shake, his heart pounding like a drum as he walks to the stool, the scar on his forehead burning under the stairs. He sits, and McGonagall lowers the sorting hat its brim, covering his eyes, plunging him into darkness. You're with him, hearing the hat's voice in his mind, low and probing. Difficult. Plenty of courage, I see, not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my, and a thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you? You feel Harry's panic, his whispered plea, "Not Slytherin, not Slytherin." The hat pauses, considering, and you sense Harry's fear of being cast into a house tied to darkness, to the rumors Ron shared. The hat chuckles a dry sound. Not Slytherin, eh? Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor. The last word booms across the hall, and you hear the Gryffindor table erupt, cheers and applause shaking the air. Harry pulls off the hat, his face flushed, and you feel his relief, his joy like a weight lifting. He stumbles to the Gryffindor table, Ron clapping him on the back, Hermione nodding approval. You see the Weasley twins chanting, "We got Potter," and you feel Harry's warmth, his first taste of belonging. The tables piled with food, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, pumpkin juice, and you smell the savory warmth, the sweetness of pudding. Harry eats his hunger fierce after years of scraps, and you sense his gratitude, his disbelief at this new life. The ghosts glide by, one a nearly headless Nick, showing off his wobbly head, and you catch Harry's grin, a rare moment of lightness. Dumbledore rises, his voice warm but commanding, welcoming the students, warning about the Forbidden Forest and the third-floor corridor. You feel Harry's curiosity at that last part, a spark of the boy who chased letters and freed snakes. The feast ends with a school song, the hall filled with voices, some off-key, and you sense Harry's quiet pride he's here in Gryffindor with friends. The night closes, and you follow him to the common room, its warmth and chatter a stark contrast to the cupboard's silence. Harry's scar tingles again, but he's too tired, too full to dwell on it. You know this is just the start, and you're ready for what's next. You're walking with Harry through the winding corridors of Hogwarts, the castle's magic humming in the air like a pulse. The stone walls are cool to the touch, lined with portraits that whisper and move their painted eyes following you. Torches flicker, casting shadows that dance across suits of armor, and you smell old parchment candle wax and a faint whiff of something sweet, like the treacle tarts from the Great Hall feast. Harry's black robes swish around him, his wand tucked in his pocket, and you feel his mix of awe and nerves. Gryffindor's his home now, Ron and Hermione his friends, but today's his first real test as a wizard. The memory of the Sorting Hat's voice. Plenty of courage lingers in his mind, and you sense his determination to prove it wasn't wrong. It's the first week of classes, and Hogwarts is a labyrinth of shifting staircases and hidden doors. You follow Harry, Ron, and Hermione through a crowded hallway, their arms full of books from Diagon Alley. Ron's grumbling about the schedule, his red hair messy, while Hermione's already memorized every professor's name. We've got charms with Flitwick first. She says, her voice sharp with excitement, then potions with Snape. You did read the chapters, didn't you? Ron rolls his eyes, and you feel Harry's quiet worry. He's barely cracked his books too overwhelmed by the castle's grandeur to study. You remember his cupboard, the drawings of brooms and stars, and you know he's dreamed of this, even if he's not ready. You enter the Charms classroom, a high-ceilinged room with tall windows letting in soft morning light. The air smells of ink and polished wood, and you hear the rustle of parchment as students settle at desks. Professor Flitwick, tiny and perched on a stack of books, waves his wand and quills float to each desk. You feel Harry's awe, his heart quickening. Magic, real magic, is about to happen. Flitwick's voice is squeaky but warm, explaining the levitation spell, Wingardium Leviosa. Swish and flick, he says, demonstrating, and a feather rises, hovering like a bird. You smell ozone, a faint crackle of energy, and you see Harry's eyes widen, his wand gripped tight. The class tries the spell, and you hear a chorus of Wingardium Leviosa, some confident, some mumbled. Ron's feather stays stubbornly still, and he mutters, "This is stupid." Hermione beside him flicks her wand with precision, and her feather floats high, earning a nod from Flitwick. "Excellent, Miss Granger." Harry tries his voice hesitant, and you feel his frustration as his feather twitches, but doesn't rise. He glances at Hermione, then Ron, and you sense his fear of falling behind, of not being enough. You remember the Dursleys' taunts, "You're nothing," and you know how deep that fear runs. Flitwick encourages him, his voice gentle. "Focus, Mr. Potter. It's in your intent." Harry tries again, his swish and flick smoother, and you feel a spark, a warmth in the air. His feather wobbles, then lifts, hovering a foot above the desk. You see his grin small but bright, and you feel his pride, a flicker of the courage the Sorting Hat saw. Ron's still struggling, and you catch Hermione's smug glance, her feather now dancing in circles. "You're saying it wrong," she tells Ron. "It's Leviosa, not Leviosa." Ron glares, and you chuckle softly, imagining their bickering echoing all the way to Christmas. She's got a knack for getting under his skin. The bell rings, and you follow Harry to the dungeons for potions, the air growing colder, damper as you descend. The classroom is stark, its stone walls lined with jars of strange ingredients, slimy things, dried herbs, eyes that seem to watch you. The air smells sharp like vinegar and something metallic, and you feel Harry's unease a prickle at his scar. Professor Snape sweeps in his black robes, billowing, his eyes dark and piercing. You remember his stare from the Great Hall, the way it made Harry flinch, and you sense it again, now, heavier, like a weight. Snape's voice is low, silky, but there's venom in it. "You are here to learn the subtle science of potion making," he says, his gaze sweeping the class, lingering on Harry. "There will be no foolish wand-waving here, you feel." Harry shrink his hands, fidgeting under the desk. Snape calls on him sudden and sharp. "Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Harry freezes, and you feel his panic. He hasn't read the book, hasn't even heard of asphodel. You sense Hermione's hand shoot up her eagerness to answer, but Snape ignores her. "I don't know," Sir Harry mumbles, his face flushing. Snape's lip curls. Clearly, fame isn't everything. The class snickers, and you feel Harry's humiliation a sting that echoes the Dursleys' cruelty. Snape fires more questions about bezoars, aconite, and Harry's silence deepens each wrong answer a blow. You want to shout the answers to shield him, but you're just an observer caught in his struggle. Hermione's squirming, desperate to speak, but Snape snaps, "Hey, sit down, Granger." You sense Harry's gratitude for her, even if it doesn't help. The lesson moves to brewing a simple potion, and you watch Harry and Ron fumble with ingredients, their cauldron bubbling too fast. Snape prowls, criticizing every move, and when their potion turns a sickly green, he docks Gryffindor points. Pathetic, he sneers, and you feel Harry's anger a spark of defiance under his shame. You know Snape's targeting him, though you don't know why, and you sense Harry's resolve to prove him wrong, to show he belongs. The week's highlight comes with flying lessons, and you're outside now, the Hogwarts grounds sprawling under a crisp blue sky. The air smells of grass and leather, and you hear the distant hoot of owls from the castle's towers. Madame Hooch, sharp-eyed and hawkish, lines up broomsticks on the field, their wood polish their bristles, twitching like eager horses. You feel Harry's excitement, a thrill that echoes those cupboard drawings of flying figures. He's never touched a broom, but you sense something instinctive in him, like he was born for this. Hooch barks. Stick out your hand and say, "Up." You hear a chorus of up and see brooms leap into hands, Hermione's reluctantly, Ron's with a smack that makes him wince. Harry's broom flies up instantly, fitting his grip like it's part of him, and you feel his surprise, his joy. You remember his wand in Ollivander's, the way it glowed, and you know this is another piece of who he is. Draco Malfoy, sneering from the Slytherin side, notices too, and you sense his jealousy, his need to one-up Harry. The lesson goes wrong when Neville, nervous and clumsy, shoots into the air, his broom wobbling. You hear gasps Hooch's shout, and you feel Harry's worry as Neville crashes, breaking his wrist. Hooch takes him to the infirmary, warning the class to stay grounded. But Draco, smirking, grabs Neville's dropped Remembrall and flies off, taunting. You feel Harry's anger flare, his courage kicking in. He mounts his broom, ignoring Hermione's protests, and soars after Draco, the wind whipping his robes. You're with him. The ground falling away, the air rushing past, smelling of freedom. Harry's a natural, weaving through the air, his movements instinctive. You feel his exhilaration, his sense of being alive, untethered from the cupboard's weight. He demands the Remembrall, and when Draco throws it, Harry dives, catching it inches from the ground. The Gryffindors cheer, and you feel his pride, his disbelief. He's good at something, really good. McGonagall storms out, and you brace for punishment, but she's seen his skill. "Potter with me," she says, and you sense Harry's fear, then relief, as she leads him to meet Oliver Wood, Gryffindor's Quidditch captain. Harry's the new seeker, the youngest in a century, and you feel his world shift again. He's not just a wizard. He's a star. You leave the field. Harry's broom still warm in his hand, his scar tingling faintly. The castle looms its towers sharp against the sky, and you know these lessons, charms potions. Flying are just the start. Harry's finding his place, but challenges are coming, and you're right there ready for them. You're in the Gryffindor common room, its warmth wrapping around you like a blanket, the fire crackling in the hearth and casting flickering shadows across the cozy armchairs. The air smells of wood smoke and faint traces of pumpkin juice left over from dinner in the great hall. It's late, the castle quiet, except for the soft snores of students in the dormitories above. You're with Harry, sprawled on a couch beside Ron, their faces lit by the glow of the flames. Hermione's nearby nose buried in A History of Magic, her quill scratching notes. Harry's still buzzing from flying lessons, his new role as Gryffindor's Seeker. A spark in his chest. You feel his pride tempered by the weight of expectations, the memory of McGonagall's sharp eyes and Snape's sneer from potions. His scar tingles faintly, a reminder of questions he can't yet answer. The common room door swings open and you hear a familiar drawl, Draco Malfoy flanked by his cronies, Crabbe and Goyle. His pale face is smug, his Slytherin tie loose, and you feel Harry's tension, a flare of the anger you saw on the Quidditch field when Draco stole Neville's Remembrall. Heard you're Gryffindor's new hero, Potter Draco, sneers his voice, dripping with mockery. Think you're special because you can catch a ball. My father says Quidditch is for show-offs who can't do real magic. Ron bristles his ears red, and you sense Harry's urge to snap back, but he holds it in his jaw tight. Draco's eyes narrow, catching Harry's restraint. What's the matter? Scared to prove yourself? Meet me in the trophy room at midnight. A wizard's duel. Unless you're too busy polishing your broom. Crabbe and Goyle snicker, and you feel Harry's pulse quicken. His pride stung. You remember the Dursleys' taunts, the years of being called worthless, and you know he can't back down. I'll be there. Harry says, his voice steady but low. Draco smirks and leaves the door slamming behind him. Hermione's head snaps up her book, forgotten. You can't go, it's against the rules, and Malfoy's probably setting you up. Ron groans. Oh, come off it, Hermione. He can't let Malfoy think he's a coward. You feel Harry's resolve, his need to face Draco, even if it's reckless. Hermione huffs, but you sense her worry, her loyalty to Harry, despite their bickering on the Hogwarts Express. You chuckle softly, imagining her reporting them to McGonagall by breakfast. She's got that kind of nerve. Midnight nears, and you're with Harry and Ron, creeping out of the dorms, their wands glowing faintly with lumos. The common room's empty, the fire down to embers, and you smell the lingering warmth of ash. Harry's heart pounds, and you feel his mix of excitement and fear sneaking out, feels like rebellion, like the night he grabbed those letters at Privet Drive. The fat lady's portrait swings open, and you slip into the corridor, the castle dark and vast, its silence heavy. The air's cool smelling of stone and dust, and you hear distant creaks like Hogwarts itself is breathing. The corridors are a maze, moonlight filtering through high windows, casting silvery patches on the floor. You pass suits of armor, their metal glinting, and portraits that mutter in their sleep. Harry and Ron move quietly, but you hear a soft shuffle. Hermione in her pajamas, her wand lit. I'm not letting you get expelled, she hisses, and you feel Harry's frustration, though he's secretly glad she's there. They argue in whispers, Ron muttering about her being a know-it-all, and you sense the trio's bond forming rough but real. You reach the trophy room, its glass cases gleaming with golden cups and plaques. The air smells of polish and old metal, and you feel Harry's nerves spike, his wand sweaty in his hand. He's ready for Draco, but the room's empty, the silence eerie. You hear a creak, then a cackle. Filch the caretaker, his voice sharp as he prowls nearby with his cat Mrs. Norris. Students out of bed. He snarls and you realize Draco's tricked them, setting a trap. You feel Harry's anger, his embarrassment at falling for it, but there's no time to dwell. Filch is close. You run the trio's footsteps, echoing their wands, casting frantic beams of light. The corridors twist, staircases shift, and you hear Filch's shouts, Mrs. Norris's yowls. Harry's scar prickles, and you feel his panic, the fear of being caught, sent back to the Dursleys. Hermione grabs his arm, pulling them through a hidden door, and you tumble into a dark hallway, the air colder, now smelling of mildew and something animalistic. You hear Filch pass his muttering fading, and you feel Harry's relief, his breath ragged. But the hallway's wrong too, quiet, too heavy. You notice a locked door at the end, its wood scarred, its handle rusted. Hermione whispers, "This is the third-floor corridor." Dumbledore said it's forbidden. Ron's eyes widen, but Harry's curious, the same spark you saw when he chased those letters. He steps closer, and you feel a low growl, deep and rumbling, vibrating through the floor. Hermione's wand shakes, but she casts Alohomora, and the lock clicks open. You want to stop them, but you're just an observer, swept into their recklessness. The door swings wide, and you're hit with a blast of hot, sour breath, the smell of wet fur and raw meat. 3 massive heads loom. In the dark, 6 yellow eyes glowing, teeth bared in snarls. It's a dog, bigger than Hagrid, with 3 heads each snapping and drooling. You feel Harry's terror, his legs frozen as the creature lunges, its chains rattling. Ron yelps, Hermione gasps, and you see a trapdoor beneath the dog, its edges worn like it's guarding something. The trio stumbles back, slamming the door, and you hear the beast's roar, muffled but fierce. You run again, hearts pounding, until you're back in the Gryffindor common room, the fat lady grumbling as she lets you in. The fire's out, the air cool, but you feel the heat of adrenaline, the trio's faces pale. What was that? Ron gasps, his voice shaky. Hermione's trembling but sharp. A Cerberus. I read about them. It's guarding something. Did you see the trapdoor? Harry nods, his scar burning now, and you feel his mind racing, connecting the forbidden corridor to Dumbledore's warning, to the mystery of his new world. They collapse into armchairs, catching their breath, and you sense their bond tighten, forged in danger. Harry's shaken but curious, his courage growing the same courage that faced Draco's challenge that caught the Remembrall midair. You know, this night's changed, something planted a question that won't let go. What's under that trapdoor, and why's it hidden? The castle's secrets are calling, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're back in the Gryffindor common room, the morning, light streaming through high windows, warming the stone floor, and casting golden patches across the worn armchairs. The air smells of toast and ink, with a faint trace of smoke from last night's fire, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione stumbled in hearts, pounding after their run-in with the 3-headed dog. You're with Harry now, his black robes slightly wrinkled, his glasses smudged, as he sits at a table, picking at a piece of bacon. Ron's across from him, yawning, his red hair a mess, while Hermione's already flipping through Hogwarts: A History, muttering about Cerberus and trapdoors. You feel Harry's restlessness, his mind split between the mystery of the forbidden corridor and the weight of his new role as Gryffindor's seeker. His scar prickles a faint echo of the terror in that dark hallway, but today's about something else. Quidditch, the game that made McGonagall's eyes light up, and his first chance to prove himself. The common room buzzes with excitement. Gryffindor's chattering about the upcoming match against Slytherin. You hear the Weasley twins, Fred and George, joking about smashing Slytherin into the dirt, their grins infectious. Harry's nervous, his stomach churning, and you sense his fear of failing, of letting down the team that cheered him at the sorting ceremony. Ron claps his shoulder, his voice upbeat. You'll be brilliant, Harry. You were born for this. Hermione looks up skeptical. Just don't fall off your broom. Quidditch sounds dangerous. You feel Harry's small smile, grateful for their support, even if it doesn't ease the knot in his chest. You follow Harry to the Quidditch pitch, the Hogwarts grounds crisp and vibrant under a November sky. The air smells of wet grass and leather, and you hear the distant roar of the crowd, a mix of cheers and jeers, as students stream toward the stands. The pitch is massive, ringed by towering stands draped in house colors, Gryffindor's scarlet and gold, Slytherin's green and silver. 3 golden hoops gleam at each end, 50 feet high, and you feel Harry's awe, the same thrill you saw when he first soared in flying lessons chasing Draco's stolen Remembrall. His nimbus, Saturn 2000, a gift from McGonagall, is slung over his shoulder. Its wood polished its bristles, humming faintly with magic. In the locker room, the Gryffindor team gathers their scarlet robes bright against the stone walls. Oliver Wood, the captain, is intense, his eyes blazing as he sketches plays on a chalkboard. Slytherin plays dirty, he warns, but we've got Potter. Keep him clear to find the snitch. You smell sweat and polish, and you feel Harry's nerves spike, his hands sweaty on his broom. The team, Fred George, Angelina Johnson, Katie Bell, Alicia Spinnet, pats his back, their confidence bolstering him, but you sense his doubt, the echo of Snape's sneer and potions. Fame isn't everything. You step onto the pitch, the crowd's roar hitting like a wave. The stands are packed, banners waving, "Go Gryffindor," and "Slytherin rules." And you hear the commentary booming, Lee Jordan's voice crackling with excitement, the air's electric smelling of ozone and anticipation, and you see Ron and Hermione in the stands, Ron waving wildly, Hermione clutching a book but cheering anyway. Hagrid's there too, his massive frame unmistakable, his shouts carrying over the noise. You feel Harry's heart race, his broom vibrating under him as Madame Hooch blows her whistle and the game begins. The quaffle's in play, a red blur, as Angelina snatches it, dodging Slytherin chasers. You hear the thwack of Bludger's black balls zooming like cannonballs, and you see Fred and George swinging their bats, deflecting them with grins. Harry's high above, circling his eyes, scanning for the snitch, a tiny golden ball wings buzzing nearly impossible to spot. You feel his focus, the wind whipping his robes, the same freedom you felt when he dove for the Remembrall, untethered from the cupboard's weight. The crowd chants "Potter, Potter," and you sense his pressure, his need to live up to the name he's only beginning to understand. Slytherin's Seeker. Terrence Higgs shadows Harry, his broom fast but not as sleek as the Nimbus. You see Draco in the stands sneering, and you feel Harry's irritation, the memory of the midnight duel that led to the Cerberus. The game's brutal Slytherin fouls, elbows jabbing, and you hear Hooch's whistle, her shouts ignored. A bludger nearly clips Harry, and you feel his adrenaline, his broom wobbling as he rights himself. Then you notice something wrong. His broom jerks, twisting like it's fighting him. You see Harry's panic, his hands gripping tight, and you hear Hermione's gasp from the stands, her voice sharp. Something's jinxing his broom. You look where she's pointing Snape in the teacher's stand, his eyes locked on Harry, his lips moving silently. You feel Harry's fear, his scar burning, and you remember Snape's hostility in potions, the way his gaze seemed to cut. Ron's shouting, he's cursing him, but Hermione's already moving, slipping through the crowd. You stay with Harry. The broom, bucking harder, the crowd's cheers turning to screams. He's 50 feet up, clinging on, and you feel his courage, the same spark that faced the three-headed dog, refusing to give up. In the stands, you catch a glimpse of Hermione, her wand out, muttering a spell. A spark flies, and Snape's robes catch fire, breaking his focus. You chuckle softly, imagining him dancing to put it out. He's not so scary now. Harry's broom steadies, and you feel his relief, his focus snapping back. Then he sees it, the snitch glinting near the Slytherin goalposts, its wings a golden blur. He dives the crowd roaring, and you're with him, the wind screaming past the ground rushing up. Higgs chases, but Harry's faster, his nimbus a streak of scarlet. You feel his determination, his instinct, like he was born for this moment. The snitch zigs-zags, and Harry follows his body low, his hand outstretched. You hear the crowd hold its breath, the commentary drowned out by the pounding of your own heart. He lunges, his fingers closing, and you feel the snitch's wings flutter against his palm. He pulls up the broom, soaring, and holds up the golden ball, its wings still. The stands erupt. Gryffindor's cheers shaking the pitch, and you see Ron leaping, Hermione clapping, Hagrid bellowing, "Thas, my boy." Harry's grinning, his face flushed, and you feel his triumph, his disbelief. He did it. He's not just famous, he's good. The team lands mobbing Harry, Fred and George, lifting him onto their shoulders. You smell grass and sweat, and you hear Wood shouting, "We've got the cup in our sights." Slytherin's players slink off. Draco's sneer faltering, and you feel Harry's satisfaction, a quiet victory over the boy who mocked him. But you also sense his unease, the memory of the jinxed broom Snape's stare. And you know he's wondering what it means, how it connects to the Cerberus, the Trapdoor, the secrets Hogwarts holds. You leave the pitch, the crowd's cheers fading, the castle's towers sharp against the dusk. Harry's broom is warm in his hand, the snitch tucked in his pocket, and you feel his transformation. He's not the boy from Privet Drive anymore, not entirely. The game's over, but the questions are growing, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're in the Gryffindor common room, the November air filtering through open windows, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain. The fire crackles, casting a warm glow across the scarlet rugs, and the air smells of burning logs and the faint sweetness of chocolate frogs, their wrappers scattered on a table. You're with Harry, his nimbus. 2000, leaning against the wall, still warm from the Quidditch match where he caught the snitch, his scar tingling faintly under the glow of victory. Ron's sprawled in an armchair, recounting Harry's dive to anyone who'll listen, his red hair catching the firelight. Hermione's nose is in magical beasts and where to find them, but her eyes keep flicking to Harry, worry creasing her brow. You feel Harry's mix of pride and unease. The thrill of Gryffindor's win over Slytherin clashes with the memory of his broom jerking in the air, Snape's dark stare burning into him. The common room's lively students buzzing about the match, the Weasley twins plotting pranks in a corner. But you sense the trio's focus shifting, drawn to the mystery that started in the forbidden corridor with the three-headed dog and its trapdoor. You remember the Cerberus's hot breath, the way Harry's scar burned that night, and you know it's no coincidence. Harry's voice is low, almost lost in the chatter. Snape was jinxing my broom, I'm sure of it. Ron nods, his face grim. He's up to something. Why else was he staring like that? Hermione sighs, closing her book. We don't have proof. But it's suspicious. You feel their curiosity, a pull stronger than the castle's shifting staircases. The Quidditch win feels distant now, overshadowed by questions what's under the trapdoor. Why's Snape involved? You follow them to the library, the air cooler here, smelling of dust and old leather. Shelves tower to the ceiling, books whispering faintly, some chained to prevent them from flying off. Hermione leads her steps, purposeful, pulling volumes on magical creatures and enchantments. If that dog's guarding something, it's important, she says, her voice sharp. Dumbledore wouldn't hide it for no reason. Harry's quieter, his mind turning over Snape's hostility and potions the way his scar aches when Snape's near. You sense his suspicion rooted in the professor's cold eyes, but also his fear. What if he's wrong? Ron's flipping through a book, grumbling about too many words, and you chuckle softly, imagining him expecting the answer to jump out like a chocolate frog. Hermione snaps. Focus, Ron. We need to know what a Cerberus guards. You feel their dynamic. Hermione's logic, Ron's loyalty, Harry's instinct meshing, driving them deeper into the mystery. Days pass, and you're in the Great Hall, the enchanted ceiling swirling with gray clouds mirroring the autumn sky. The air smells of roast chicken and pumpkin pie, and you hear the clink of goblets, the hum of conversation. Harry's picking at his food, his eyes on the staff table, where Snape sits his black robes stark against the festive hall. You feel Harry's unease, his scar prickling, and you notice Draco Malfoy smirking from the Slytherin table, whispering to Crabbe and Goyle. The midnight duel feels like a lifetime ago, but Draco's taunts still sting, and you sense Harry's resolve to outsmart him to prove he's more than a famous name. Hermione leans in her voice a whisper. I found something about Cerberuses. They're rare, used to guard treasures or secrets, but there's nothing about Hogwarts. Ron frowns. Maybe it's not in books. Maybe we need to, check the corridor again. Harry's eyes light up, and you feel his reckless spark, the same one that chased the snitch that faced the dog. Hermione's horrified. Are you mad? We nearly died, but you sense her curiosity too, tugging at her logic like a loose thread. You follow them through the castle, its corridors alive with magic portraits, arguing staircases, pivoting the air smelling of stone, and faint traces of lavender from passing ghosts. They wait for night, sneaking out under the cover of darkness, their wands glowing with lumos. You feel Harry's adrenaline, his heart pounding as they near the third-floor corridor, the memory of the Cerberus's snarls vivid. The hallway's darker now, the air heavier, smelling of damp fur and something metallic like old blood. The door's still there, its wood scarred, and you hear a low growl, softer this time, almost sleepy. Hermione hesitates, her wand trembling, but Harry steps forward, his courage flaring. We need to know, he whispers, and you feel his need for answers, a hunger deeper than Quidditch glory. Ron nods, gripping his wand, and Hermione sighs, casting Alohomora. The lock clicks, and the door creaks open, releasing a wave of hot, sour breath. The Cerberus is there, 3 heads, drowsing, its massive body sprawled over the trapdoor. You see a harp in the corner, its strings plucked by an unseen hand, lulling the beast, and you feel Harry's confusion. Someone's been here, someone who knows how to tame it. The trio freezes, but the dog doesn't stir, it snores, rumbling like distant thunder. You notice Harry's eyes on the trapdoor, its edges worn a faint glow, seeping through the cracks. Something's down there, he whispers, and you feel his certainty, a pull like the one that drew him to his wand in Ollivander's. Ron's voice is shaky. Yeah, but what? And who's playing that harp? Hermione's pale, but her mind's racing. It's Enchanted. Someone's keeping the dog asleep. But why? They back out, closing the door softly, and you feel their relief, their minds buzzing with new questions. You follow them to the common room, the castle quiet now, the air cool and still. They collapse into armchairs, the fire low, and you sense their determination hardening. Snape. Harry says, his voice firm. He's after whatever's down there. That's why he tried to jinx me. Hermione's skeptical but nods. We need more information, maybe the library. Ron groans. Not more books, but you feel their unity, a team now bound by danger and secrets. The next day, you're in the Great Hall, the air festive with early Christmas decorations, floating candles, glittering snowflakes. Hagrid joins them at the Gryffindor table, his massive frame dwarfing the benches, his coat smelling of earth and pine. Heard you've been poking around, he says, his voice low but warm. Harry asks about the trapdoor, and Hagrid's eyes narrow. None of your business, that. Dumbledore's got it under control, but you catch his glance at the staff table at Snape, and you feel Harry's suspicion deepen his scar, aching. You sense the trio's resolve, their curiosity now a mission. They're not just students. They're investigators chasing a truth that ties to Harry's past, to the scar he's only beginning to understand. The castle's secrets are closing in, and you know they won't stop until they uncover them. You're right there ready for what's next. You're in the Gryffindor common room, the Christmas season transforming it into a cozy haven. Evergreen garlands drape the walls, their piney scent mingling with the crackling fire's wood smoke and the faint sweetness of peppermint from candy canes scattered on tables. The enchanted ceiling of the great hall glimpsed earlier swirls with snowflakes that never fall, and here fairy lights twinkle, casting a soft glow across the scarlet rugs. You're with Harry, his face lit by the fire as he sits near Ron, who's unwrapping a chocolate frog, its card featuring Morgana. Hermione's gone home for the holidays, her absence leaving the trio incomplete, but you feel Harry's quiet excitement. His first Christmas away from the Dursleys, his first real chance to feel wanted. The memory of the trapdoor and the three-headed dog lingers, as does Snape's dark stare from the Quidditch match. But tonight the castle's festive warmth holds those mysteries at bay. The common room's quieter, now most students gone for the break, leaving only a few Gryffindors, including the Weasley brothers. You see a pile of presents at Harry's feet wrapped in colorful paper, a shock after years of nothing but socks or coat hangers from the Dursleys. You feel his disbelief, his cautious joy, as he opens a Weasley sweater maroon with a golden hush as its wool soft and warm. Ron, wearing an identical one, grins. Mum knits 'em every year. Yours is better than mine, no hand-me-downs. You sense Harry's gratitude a warmth deeper than the fire, for a family that's claimed him without question. Among the gifts, you notice a plain package, no card, just a note in looping script. Your father left this in my possession. Use it well. Harry unwraps it, and you marvel as a shimmering fabric spills out fluid like water, silvery and weightless. You feel its magic a hum in the air as Harry drapes it over his hand, watching it vanish. An invisibility cloak. Ron gasps, his eyes wide. Blimey, Harry, those are rare. You feel Harry's awe, his fingers tracing the cloak's edges, and you sense a connection to his father. A man he's never known but feels closer to now. You remember Hagrid's words in Diagon Alley. Lily and James, some of the best. And you know this cloak is a piece of his past, a key to his future. Ron's already plotting. You could sneak anywhere with that, Filch wouldn't have a chance. You chuckle softly, imagining Filch chasing shadows while Mrs. Norris yowls in confusion. Poor guy's no match for magic like this. Harry's quieter, his mind turning, and you feel his curiosity flare the same spark that drove him to the trapdoor to the snitch. The cloak's a tool, not just for pranks, but for answers, and you know he's thinking of the forbidden corridor of Snape, of the secrets Hogwarts hides. That night, you're with Harry in the dorms, the other boys snoring, the air cool and still. He waits until Ron's asleep, then slips the invisibility cloak from his trunk, its fabric cool against his skin. You feel his heart race, a mix of thrill and guilt. He knows he's breaking rules, but the cloak feels like permission, like his father's voice urging him forward. He drapes it over himself, vanishing completely, and you follow unseen as he creeps through the common room, the fat lady's portrait muttering, "Who's there?" as it swings open. The castle at night is a different world, its corridors vast and shadowy, lit only by moonlight, streaming through arched windows. The air smells of stone and faint traces of lavender from passing ghosts, and you hear distant creaks like Hogwarts is whispering its secrets. Harry moves silently the cloak, brushing the floor, and you feel his exhilaration, his sense of freedom like flying, but quieter, more secret. You pass portraits, their occupants asleep in suits of armor that gleam faintly, their metal cool to the touch. Harry's not heading to the third-floor corridor, not tonight. You sense his need for something else, a pull he can't name. He wanders the castle unfolding like a maze until he finds a door he doesn't recognize, half hidden behind a tapestry. You feel his curiosity, the same instinct that opened the trapdoor, and he slips inside the cloak, pooling around him. The room's small, cluttered with dusty furniture, and you smell old wood and wax. In the center stands a tall mirror, its gold frame ornate its surface, shimmering like liquid silver. Words are carved across the top. Erised stra eru, oit ube kafru oit onwosi. And you feel a hum, a magic deeper than the cloak's. Harry steps closer, dropping the cloak, and you see his reflection, but it's not just him. You feel his breath catch as figures appear, Lily and James, his parents smiling, their eyes warm. Lily's red hair glows. James's glasses match Harry's, and you sense their love, a weight that makes Harry's throat tighten. More figures join, grandparents, aunts, a family he's never known, all watching him with pride. You feel his longing, his grief, the years of loneliness in the cupboard, crashing against this impossible moment. He reaches out his fingers, brushing the glass, but it's cold, unyielding, and you sense his ache, his need to make it real. You stay with him night after night as he returns to the mirror, the cloak, his secret passage. The castle's corridors become familiar, their shadows less daunting, and you hear the soft pad of his footsteps, the rustle of the cloak. Each visit, you feel his heart lift, then sink, the mirror's promise, a joy and a pain. You sense his obsession growing, his days distracted, his thoughts drifting from Quidditch, from the trapdoor mystery. Ron notices his voice worried. "You're acting weird, mate. What's going on?" But Harry can't explain, not yet. One night, you're back at the mirror, Harry's face pale under its glow, when a shadow moves behind him. You feel his jolt of fear, but it's Dumbledore, his silver beard catching the moonlight, his eyes kind but sharp. "So you found the mirror of Erised," he says, his voice soft but heavy. You feel Harry's embarrassment, caught like a kid sneaking sweets, but Dumbledore's not angry. He explains the mirror, its power to show the heart's deepest desire. It does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live. You sense Harry's shame, but also his understanding, the weight of moving forward. Dumbledore's words linger as you leave the room, the cloak draped over Harry again, the castle's silence wrapping around you. You feel his resolve, shift his focus, returning to the present, to Ron, to the trapdoor, to the questions that won't let go. The invisibility cloak is more than a gift now. It's a tool, a way to chase the truth. You know the mirror's not the end, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're slipping through the shadowed corridors of Hogwarts, the castle's silence wrapping around you like a cloak of its own. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of ancient stone, and the faint lavender of passing ghosts, their whispers barely audible as they glide through walls. You're with Harry, hidden beneath the invisibility cloak, its silvery fabric cool against his skin, muffling his footsteps as he moves with purpose. The moonlight spills through arched windows, casting silvery patches on the floor, and you feel his heart pounding, a mix of anticipation and guilt. The Christmas break has quieted the castle, its usual bustle replaced by an eerie stillness, but Harry's mind is anything but quiet. You sense his pull to the mirror of Erised, the same pull that drew him to the trapdoor, to the snitch, to the letters that changed his life. The cloak, a gift from his father, feels like permission to chase this obsession, even if it means breaking rules. You've been here before, night after night, following Harry to that hidden room, since he first found the mirror under the cloak's cover. The memory of his parents. Lily's warm smile, James's familiar glasses burns in his mind, and you feel his longing a deep ache that's both comfort and pain. The Trapdoor mystery. Snape's jinxed broom, the Cerberus. They're still there nagging at him. But the mirror's promise is stronger, pulling him away from Ron from classes from the Gryffindor common room's festive glow. You sense his conflict, the boy who soared, as Seeker now grounded by a vision he can't touch. You reach the tapestry, concealing the door, its faded threads depicting a unicorn in a forest. Harry slips behind it, the cloak rustling softly, and you follow the air growing dustier, smelling of old wood and wax. The room's unchanged, small, cluttered with broken desks and cobwebbed chairs, the mirror of Erised standing tall in the center, its gold frame gleaming like a beacon. The words carved above, Erised stra eru oit ube kefru oit on wosi, seem to pulse, and you feel the mirror's magic a hum that makes your skin prickle. Harry drops the cloak, his reflection sharp in the glass, and you stand beside him unseen as the mirror works its spell. You see what he sees, Lily and James, their faces vivid, their eyes full of love. Lily's red hair catches the moonlight. James's messy hair mirrors Harry's, and you feel the weight of their absence a void the Dursleys never filled. More figures appear, grandparents with kind smiles, uncles, clapping Harry's shoulder, a family that should have been his. You sense his heart twist joy and grief colliding, and you notice his hands tremble, his fingers brushing the cold glass. "Mom, Dad," he whispers, his voice breaking, and you feel the rawness of his need, the years in the cupboard pouring out. You remember Privet drive the loneliness of his drawings, and you know this mirror is both a gift and a trap. You stay with him, the hours slipping away, the castle's silence unbroken except for Harry's soft breaths. You feel his obsession deep in his eyes, locked on the mirror, as if staring long enough will make the vision real. The room's shadows shift, the moonlight fading as dawn nears, but Harry doesn't move his scar, faintly tingling a reminder of the world beyond this room. You sense his detachment, his days growing hazy, Quidditch practice meals in the Great Hall. Even Ron's jokes feel distant like echoes. You chuckle softly, imagining Ron trying to drag Harry to a chess match, only to find him sneaking off again, poor guy's no match for a mirror's pull. One night, you're back the routine familiar, when Harry brings Ron the cloak, barely covering them both. You feel Ron's unease, his loyalty pushing him to follow despite his doubts. The room's colder tonight, the air thick with dust, and you see Ron's eyes widen as he faces the mirror. Harry's eager, expecting Ron to see his parents, but Ron's reflection shows something else himself. Older, holding the Quidditch Cup head boy badge gleaming, his brothers cheering. "I'm the best," Ron grins, and you feel Harry's surprise, his realization that the mirror's personal showing each heart's deepest desire. Ron's voice falters. It's not real, is it? Harry's silent, and you sense his disappointment, his need to share this with someone who understands. Ron tries to pull him away, his voice firm. "You can't keep coming here, mate, it's creepy." But Harry's stubborn, the mirror's grip tighter than the invisibility cloak's magic. You feel their friendship strain, Ron's worry clashing with Harry's fixation, but Ron doesn't push his loyalty, holding firm. They leave the cloak, hiding them, and you follow through the corridors, the castle's portraits, snoring, their frames rattling faintly. You sense Harry's resolve waver, Ron's words sinking in, but the mirror's pull is stronger, calling him back. Another night you're there again, Harry alone under the cloak, his face pale in the mirror's glow. You feel his exhaustion, his eyes red-rimmed, but he can't stop the vision of his family too vivid. Then a shadow moves, and you feel Harry's jolt of fear, his hand gripping his wand. It's Dumbledore, his robes shimmering, his eyes gentle but piercing. You remember his silhouette on Privet Drive, the weight of his decisions, and you sense his care for Harry like a guardian watching from afar. "Back again, Harry." he says, his voice soft but firm, and you feel Harry's shame caught like a kid sneaking sweets. Dumbledore steps closer, the mirror's light catching his half-moon glasses. The mirror of Erised shows us what we want most, he says, but it does not give truth. Men have wasted away before it, driven mad by what they cannot have. You feel Harry's heart sink, the truth cutting through his haze. Dumbledore's voice softens. You, who have never known your family, see them standing beside you. But you must move on, Harry. You sense Harry's struggle, his love for the mirror battling his trust in Dumbledore, and you know this moment's a turning point, like choosing Gryffindor over Slytherin. Dumbledore reveals the mirror will be moved, and Harry nods, his voice small. I understand, sir. You feel his resolve shift the mirror's spell, breaking, though its ache lingers. You follow him back to the common room, the cloak heavy, now the castle's corridors quiet, but less inviting. The invisibility cloak is still his, a gift from his father, but you sense its purpose changing to seek answers, not dreams. The trapdoor, Snape the Cerberus, they're waiting, and you know, Harry's ready to face them with Ron and Hermione by his side. You're right there, ready for what's next. You're in the Hogwarts library, the air thick with the musty scent of old parchment and leather bindings, the faint creak of shelves stretching to the vaulted ceiling. Sunlight filters through tall stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the wooden tables where Harry, Ron, and Hermione huddle surrounded by towering stacks of books. You're with Harry, his glasses slipping down his nose, his scar faintly tingling as he flips through Famous Alchemists of the Ages. The Christmas break is over the castle, bustling again with students, but the trio's focus is razor sharp, driven by the mystery of the trapdoor and the three-headed dog. You feel Harry's determination of fire rekindled after Dumbledore's words at the mirror of Erised pulled him from its spell. The invisibility cloak tucked in his bag is a reminder of his father, but now it's a tool for answers, not dreams. Hermione's back from the holidays, her bushy hair tied up her quill, scratching notes with relentless precision. Ron's slouched his eyes glazed over a dusty tome, muttering about too many words. You sense their dynamic. Hermione's logic, Ron's loyalty, Harry's instinct tightening a team forged in the midnight run from the Cerberus. The memory of the trapdoor, the enchanted harp, and Snape's jinxed broom during Quidditch looms large, and you feel their urgency. We know it's something important. Hermione whispers, her voice low, to avoid Madame Pince's hawkish glare. That dog's guarding something and Snape's involved. Harry nods his mind, turning over Dumbledore's warning about the third-floor corridor, Hagrid's evasiveness in the Great Hall. Hagrid said it's Dumbledore's business, he says, but he looked nervous. Ron leans in, his voice a conspiratorial hiss. Bet it's treasure, or a weapon. Why else hide it? Hermione rolls her eyes. It's not about gold, Ron. It's magical, something powerful. You feel Harry's frustration, the pieces of the puzzle. Snape, the dog, the trapdoor scattered, refusing to fit. You remember the letters flooding Privet Drive, the way they forced Harry's destiny into the open, and you know this mystery's no different. The library's quiet, save for the rustle of pages and the occasional cough from a Ravenclaw studying nearby. You smell ink and wax, the air heavy with knowledge, and you see Hermione pull a thin ancient book from the stack, Arcane Artifacts and Their Origins. Her eyes light up, and you feel her excitement a spark, like when she fixed Harry's glasses on the Hogwarts Express. Listen to this, she says, reading aloud. Nicolas Flamel, born 1326, famed alchemist, creator of the Sorcerer's Stone, a legendary substance that produces the elixir of life, granting immortality and turns any metal into gold. You feel Harry's pulse quicken, the name Flamel, ringing a bell. Hagrid mentioned it in Diagon Alley, a slip about Flamel's work with Dumbledore. That's it. Harry says, his voice too loud, earning a shush from Madam Pince. The dogs guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. Ron's eyes widen. Immortality. No wonder Snape wants it. Hermione's skeptical, her brow furrowing. But why would Dumbledore hide it here? And how do we know it's Snape? You sense Harry's certainty, rooted in Snape's hostility, his scars burning during potions the jinxed broom. You chuckle softly, imagining Snape brewing an immortality potion, only to scowl at his own reflection. Eternity's too long for that face. You follow them to the Gryffindor common room, the fire roaring, the air warm with the scent of hot chocolate and pine from lingering Christmas decorations. The room's lively Fred and George, enchanting snowballs to chase a first year, but the trio's in their own world whispering by a window. You feel their resolve harden. Flamel's stone is the key, and Snape's after it, maybe for himself, maybe for someone worse. Harry's scar aches, and you sense his fear. A shadow of the name Hagrid dropped in the shack Voldemort, the dark wizard, tied to his past. They seek Hagrid, finding him outside his hut, the forbidden forest looming dark behind him. The air's crisp smelling of damp earth, and Hagrid's pipe its smoke curling like a dragon's breath. His boarhound Fang slobbers nearby, and you hear the distant hoot of owls from the castle. Hagrid's chopping wood, his axe thudding, but he freezes when Harry mentions Flamel. How'd ye know about him? He demands, his beard twitching. You feel Harry's push his need for truth. We know about the stone Hagrid. Is that what the dogs guarding Hagrid's eyes dart, and you sense his conflict loyalty to Dumbledore care for Harry? Ye're meddlin' in things you don't understand. He grumbles, but you catch his slip. Fluffy's just one layer. There's more protections. You feel the trio's thrill. Fluffy's the dog, and the stone's real, guarded by layers of magic. Hagrid shoos them off, muttering about nosy kids, but you know they've struck gold. Back in the library, Hermione dives deeper, pulling books on alchemy and protective charms. You smell dust and old vellum, and you hear Ron groan. More reading, I'd rather face Fluffy. Harry's quieter, his mind on Snape, on Voldemort, on the scar that ties him to this. You sense his fear of what the stone could mean in the wrong hands, his courage to stop it, like when he dove for the snitch. Days pass, and you're in the Great Hall. The enchanted ceiling bright with the spring sky, the air smelling of fresh bread and roast lamb. The trio's research stalls Flamel's history is clear, but the stone's protections are a blank. You feel their frustration, their fear that Snape's moving faster. Then Neville stumbles over his face, red, clutching a chocolate frog card. I heard you talking about Flamel, he says, shy. Found this in the common room. He hands Harry the card. Dumbledore's the same one from the Hogwarts Express, listing his work with Flamel on the Sorcerer's Stone. You feel Harry's pulse leap the final piece, clicking Dumbledore's guarding the stone, and Snape's the threat. You follow them to the common room, the fire low, the air cool as night settles. They huddle, planning. We need to tell Dumbledore, Hermione says, but Harry shakes his head. He won't believe us about Snape. We need proof. Ron nods. The invisibility cloak. Let's check the trapdoor again. You feel their resolve, a mission now, like the midnight duel, but bigger, riskier. The stone's not just a secret. It's a danger tied to Harry's scar, his past, his future. You know they're stepping into something larger, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're trudging across the Hogwarts grounds, the spring air crisp and heavy with the scent of blooming wildflowers and damp earth. The castle looms behind you, its towers sharp against a twilight sky, while the forbidden forest's dark edge whispers secrets in the distance. You're with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, their black robes catching the breeze as they head toward Hagrid's hut, their steps quick with purpose. Harry's invisibility cloak is stuffed in his bag, a tool they're itching to use again after unraveling Nicolas Flamel's connection to the Sorcerer's Stone. You feel Harry's urgency, his scar tingling faintly, the weight of the stone's danger, guarded by Fluffy and other protections, possibly targeted by Snape, driving their every move. The library's answers confirmed the stone's power, but Hagrid's slip about Fluffy's just one layer has them seeking more from the gamekeeper, despite his knack for dodging questions. The hut's wooden door creaks as Hagrid ushers you in the air, inside warm and thick with the smell of smoked meat, pipe tobacco, and something sharper like burnt scales. Fang Hagrid's boarhound slobbers at your feet, his tail thumping the floor. The fire roars, too hot for spring, and you notice the windows draped with heavy curtains blocking the fading light. Hagrid's nervous, his massive hands fidgeting as he pours tea, the cups dwarfed in his grip. "What are you doing here?" he grumbles, but you sense his affection for Harry, the boy he brought from Privet Drive. You feel Harry's trust in Hagrid, but also his frustration. Hagrid knows more about the stone, and they need answers. Hermione cuts to the chase, her voice sharp. Hagrid, what else is guarding the stone besides Fluffy Hagrid's beard, twitches his eyes, darting to the fire. "Told ye it's not your business. Dumbledore's got it handled." Ron leans forward, his red hair catching the firelight. "But Snape's after it." "Hagrid, we saw him jinx Harry's broom." Hagrid scoffs, but you catch a flicker of doubt in his eyes and you feel Harry's hope they're close to cracking him. Then you hear a low rumbling sound like a kettle about to boil, coming from a large covered pot on the table. You smell something acrid, like charred leather, and you see Harry's eyes narrow, his curiosity flaring the same spark that chased the trapdoor. "What's that?" Harry asks, pointing. Hagrid's face pales and he stumbles over his words. "Nothing, just, a project." But the pot shakes a crack, splitting its side, and you feel the trio's alarm as a black, scaly creature tumbles out, wings flapping, smoke curling from its tiny snout. It's a dragon, no bigger than a dog, its eyes glinting like embers. Hagrid's beaming now, his voice soft. "Ain't he beautiful, Norbert, me Norwegian ridgeback?" You feel Harry's shock, Ron's disbelief, and Hermione's horror dragons are illegal dangerous, and Hagrid's treating this one like a puppy. You chuckle softly, imagining Hagrid knitting a tiny sweater for Norbert, as if that'd tame a fire-breathing beast. Hermione's voice is shrill. "Hagrid, you can't keep a dragon. It's against wizarding law." Ron nods, his face pale. "And it'll burn your hut down," but Hagrid's stubborn cradling Norbert, who snaps at his beard, singeing it. You smell burnt hair, and you feel the trio's panic. This isn't just Hagrid's problem. It's theirs, tied to their mission to protect the stone. If Norbert's discovered, Hagrid's in trouble, and their investigation could be exposed. Days pass, and you're back at the hut, the situation worsening. Norbert's grown his scales harder, his fire hotter, and Hagrid's hut is a mess, charred furniture, scratched walls, the air thick with smoke. You hear Norbert's growls, his claws scraping the floor, and you see Hagrid's bandaged hands, his face torn between love and exhaustion. Harry's scar aches. His mind split between the stone and this new crisis, but you feel his loyalty to Hagrid, the man who gave him his first birthday cake. Ron's got a plan, his voice low. "My brother Charlie works with dragons in Romania. He can take Norbert." Hermione's skeptical but agrees, and you sense their teamwork, the same bond that faced Fluffy, now tackling a dragon. You follow them to the library, the air cool and dusty, the scent of old books grounding you as they draft a letter to Charlie. Madame Pince glares her quill, pausing, but you feel their focus, their quills scratching in unison. The reply comes fast. Charlie's friends will collect Norbert at midnight atop the astronomy tower, the highest point in Hogwarts. You feel Harry's relief, but also his nerves. Smuggling a dragon through the castle is riskier than sneaking to the trapdoor, and Filch's patrols are relentless. The night of the escape, you're in Hagrid's hut, the air stifling Norbert, snarling in a crate packed with blankets and a teddy bear. Hagrid's sobbing, his massive frame shaking as he hugs the crate. Me little Norbert off to Romania. You feel Harry's sympathy, but also his urgency times ticking. They cover the crate with the invisibility cloak, its magic straining to hide the dragon's bulk, and you hear Norbert's muffled growls, the crate jerking. You follow Harry and Hermione through the castle. Ron, sidelined with a swollen hand from Norbert's bite, his absence, a gap in the trio's rhythm. The corridors are dark, the air cold with the scent of stone and faint traces of candle wax. You hear Filch's footsteps, Mrs. Norris's yowls, and you feel Harry's heart pound his wand, glowing faintly with lumos. The cloak's tight, Norbert's crate heavy, and you smell the dragon's smoky breath, feel its heat through the wood. The astronomy tower's stairs are endless, each step creaking, and you sense Hermione's fear, her usual logic fraying under the risk. You dodge Peeves the poltergeist, his cackles echoing, and you feel the tension, every sound a threat of expulsion, of losing the stone's trail. You reach the tower, the night air sharp with the scent of pine from the forbidden forest below. The stars are bright, the castle sprawling beneath, and you hear the distant flap of wings, Charlie's friends on broomsticks, cloaked figures ready to take Norbert. You feel Harry's relief as they hand over the crate, Norbert's growls fading as the dragons whisked away. The cloak's back in Harry's bag, and you sense their triumph, a small victory, like catching the snitch, but the night's not over. As you descend, disaster strikes Filch, waiting in the corridor, his lantern swinging. You feel Harry's panic. Hermione's gasp, they forgot the cloak in their haste, left it on the tower. Filch drags them to McGonagall, her face stern, and you sense Harry's dread, the same fear from Privet Drive of being cast out. McGonagall's furious docking points and assigning detention, and you learn Draco was caught too, spying his plan to expose them, backfiring. You feel Harry's mix of shame and defiance, his resolve to protect the stone unshaken, even as the castle's secrets tighten their grip. You're back in the common room, the fire low, the air heavy with defeat. Ron's waiting, his hand bandaged his face, falling at the news. You sense the trio's bond, strained but unbroken, their mission, clearer now, the stone's in danger, and they're the only ones who see it. You know the risks are growing, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're in the Gryffindor common room, the fire reduced to glowing embers, casting faint shadows across the scarlet rugs and armchairs. The air's cool smelling of ash and the lingering sweetness of pumpkin pasties left from dinner. It's late, the castle quiet, but tension hangs heavy. You're with Harry, his face pale, his glasses reflecting the dim light as he sits with Ron and Hermione, their voices hushed. The sting of McGonagall's punishment detention and 50 points each lost for the Norbert fiasco still burns, and you feel Harry's shame, the weight of Gryffindor's glares in the Great Hall. His scar prickles a reminder of the Sorcerer's Stone, the Trapdoor, and Snape's shadow looming over their mission. The invisibility cloak forgotten on the astronomy tower and confiscated by McGonagall is a loss that stings like the Dursleys' cruelty, but you sense Harry's resolve hardened by the need to stop whoever's after the stone. The detention's tonight, and you follow Harry, Hermione, and Draco, caught for spying on their dragon escape, as they meet Filch in the entrance hall. The air's cold smelling of stone and wax, and you hear Filch's rasping voice, gleeful at their punishment. "Out to the forest with you." He sneers, his lantern swinging. You feel Harry's dread, the forbidden forest, a place of whispered warnings, forbidden like the third-floor corridor. Draco's pale, his usual smirk gone, and you sense his fear, a crack in his arrogance. Hermione's clutching her wand, her face set, and you know she's bracing for whatever's out there, like when she faced Fluffy. Hagrid's waiting outside, his crossbow slung over his shoulder. Fang at his side, the boarhound's drool glinting in the moonlight. The forest's edge looms its trees, dense and black, the air thick with pine-damp earth, and something musky like wild animals. You smell Hagrid's pipe, its tobacco, faint but grounding, and you hear the distant hoot of an owl sharp against the forest's eerie silence. Right, you'll be looking for a wounded unicorn. Hagrid says, his voice gruff but worried. Something's hurting him, and we need to find it. You feel Harry's unease. Unicorns are pure magical, and something dark enough to harm them feels tied to the stone to Voldemort's name whispered in the shack. Hagrid splits the group, sending Hermione and Draco with Fang, while you stay with Harry and Hagrid. You tread into the forest, the ground soft with moss and fallen leaves, the air growing colder, heavier as the trees close in. Moonlight barely pierces the canopy, casting twisted shadows that seem to move, and you hear rustling small creatures or something bigger. You feel Harry's heart pound, his wand gripped tight, its lumos casting a faint glow. The forest feels alive, its whispers like the castle's portraits, but wilder, untamed. You remember the Cerberus's hot breath, the mirror's pull, and you know this is another test, another step toward the stone's truth. Hagrid points to a silvery trail on the ground, unicorn blood shimmering like liquid moonlight. You feel Harry's horror, the purity of the creature violated, and you sense Hagrid's grief, his massive frame tense as he tracks the trail. Something evil's out here, he mutters, his crossbow ready. You hear a snap, a branch breaking, and you feel Harry's fear spike his scar, burning now, sharper than in potions with Snape. The trail leads deeper, the air thicker, smelling of decay and something metallic like blood. You see claw marks on a tree too large for a wolf, and you know whatever's hunting unicorns is no ordinary beast. Hagrid pauses, his eyes scanning the dark, and you hear a low, wet sound like something feeding. He signals Harry to stay back, but you feel Harry's courage, the same spark that dove for the snitch that faced Fluffy. You move with him, the silvery blood leading to a clearing, and you freeze. A cloaked figure kneels over a dead unicorn, its white coat stained, its blood pooling. The figure's drinking, slurping the shimmering liquid, and you feel Harry's nausea, his scar searing with pain. You sense a presence dark and cold like the name Voldemort carries, and you know this is no mere poacher. The figure turns its face hidden, and you feel Harry's terror, his legs rooted. Hagrid fires his crossbow the bolt, whistling, but the figure vanishes, a shadow melting into the trees. You hear hooves and a centaur. Firenze, his coat gleaming, his eyes wise, gallops into the clearing, driving the figure off. You smell horse and earth, and you feel Harry's relief, though his scar still burns. Firenze's voice is deep calm. Harry Potter, you should not be here. That was a dark force, seeking life through death. You sense Harry's questions, Voldemort the stone, but Firenze's cryptic warning of danger tied to Harry's past. You hear shouts, Hermione, Draco, Fang, and you realize Draco fled screaming, leaving Hermione to chase him. You chuckle softly, imagining Draco tripping over his own ego, thinking he's braver than a forest. Hagrid reunites the group, his face grim, and you feel Harry's urgency, his need to tell Ron and Hermione what he saw. The trek back is quiet, the forest's shadows less threatening but still heavy, and you smell the castle's stone as you emerge its towers, a beacon of safety. In the common room, the fire's low, the air warm but tense. Harry tells Ron and Hermione about the cloaked figure, the unicorn's blood, his scar's pain. You feel their fear, Hermione's logic faltering, Ron's voice shaky. That's got to be Voldemort or someone working for him, Harry says, and you sense their mission shift. The stone's not just a prize. It's a weapon tied to a darkness that hunts Harry. You know they're running out of time, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're in the Gryffindor common room, the late spring air filtering through open windows, carrying the scent of blooming lilacs from the Hogwarts grounds. The fire's low, its embers glowing faintly, and the room smells of parchment ink and the faint tang of treacle tarts left from dinner. You're with Harry, Ron, and Hermione huddled in a corner, their faces tense under the flicker of candlelight. Harry's scar aches, a sharp reminder of the cloaked figure in the Forbidden Forest drinking unicorn blood, and you feel his fear, his certainty that Voldemort's shadow is closing in. The Sorcerer's Stone, guarded by Fluffy and other protections, is no longer just a mystery. It's a target tied to the dark force that marked Harry's past. You sense the trio's urgency, their bond forged through Norbert's escape, the mirror of Erised, and the forest's terror now driving them to act. The common room's quieter tonight, most students studying for exams, but the Weasley twins are still plotting pranks, their laughter a distant hum. Harry's voice is low, his glasses glinting as he leans in. That figure in the forest, it's after the stone. We have to stop it. Ron nods, his red hair messy, his face pale from the detention's horrors. If it's Voldemort or someone working for him, they're not messing around. Hermione's clutching a quill, her notes on Flamel and the stone spread out, but her eyes are wide, her usual logic strained. We need to tell Dumbledore, she says, but Harry shakes his head. He's gone. Hagrid said he's at the Ministry. Snape'll get the stone before he's back. You feel their dread. Snape with his cold eyes and jinxed broom is their prime suspect, and you recall the burning of Harry's scar and potions, the suspicion cemented in the Quidditch stands. The memory of Fluffy's growls, the enchanted harp, and Hagrid's slip about layers fuels their plan. We know Fluffy's the first hurdle, Harry says, and music puts him to sleep. We can get past him. Hermione's hesitant, her voice sharp. There's more. Hagrid said other professors set protections. We don't know what they are. Ron grins nervous, but determined. We've faced a dragon and a three-headed dog. How bad can it be? You chuckle softly, imagining Ron's bravado melting at the sight of another beast. His courage is real, but his luck's another story. You follow them to Hagrid's hut the next day, the air warm with the scent of grass and pine, the Forbidden Forest a dark smudge on the horizon. Hagrid's tending his garden, his massive hands pulling weeds, Fang snoring nearby. You smell earth and tobacco, and you feel Harry's urgency as he presses Hagrid. What else is guarding the stone we need to know? Hagrid's beard twitches, his eyes guilty. He's already said too much. I shouldn't, but you're stubborn, ain't ye? He admits the protections come from Sprout Flitwick, McGonagall, Quirrell, Snape, and Dumbledore himself, each a magical challenge. You feel the trio's mix of fear and resolve, 6 layers each a puzzle, but they're committed, like when they smuggled Norbert. Back in the common room, the air's tense, the scent of wax heavy as they strategize by candlelight. Hermione's quill flies, listing spells, Wingardium Leviosa, Alohomora, Incendio, her mind racing to anticipate the professor's traps. Ron's pacing his wand tucked behind his ear. What if it's like chess? I'm good at that. Harry's quieter, his scar throbbing, and you sense his leadership emerging, the boy who caught the snitch now guiding his friends. We go tonight, he says, his voice firm. If Snape's moving, we can't wait. You feel their unity, a team that's faced Filch Draco and a dragon now ready for their biggest test. You slip through the castle with them, the corridors dark, the air cool with the scent of stone, and faint traces of lavender from ghosts. They don't have the invisibility cloak still with McGonagall, but they're careful, their wands glowing with Lumos. You hear Peeves cackling somewhere, Filch's footsteps in the distance, and you feel Harry's heart pound, his fear of expulsion clashing with his need to protect the stone. The third-floor corridor looms, its door scarred, and you smell the familiar stench of damp fur and raw meat. Hermione's trembling, but focused her wand steady as she casts a spell to conjure a small harp, its strings plucking a lullaby. You feel their tension, the memory of Fluffy's jaws vivid, but the music works. Inside, the Cerberus snores, its 3 heads slumped. You step into the room, the air hot and heavy, the trapdoor visible under Fluffy's massive paw. You hear the harp's soft notes, the dog's rumbling breaths, and you smell its sour breath, a reminder of their first escape. Harry lifts the trapdoor, revealing a dark chute, and you feel their hesitation. There's no turning back. "We're doing this for Dumbledore," Hermione whispers, and you sense their courage, the same spark that faced the forest's darkness. Ron goes first. Then Hermione and Harry follows the chute, swallowing them into the unknown. You're with them, the air growing colder, the scent of earth and magic thickening, and you know the stone's close, but so is danger. They land in a tangle, the ground soft with vines. Devil's snare. Hermione realizes, her voice sharp. You feel the plant's tendrils coil, tightening, and you see Harry's panic, his scar burning. Hermione's calm, her voice steady. "Relax it, hates light." She casts Lumos Solemn, and you feel the vines retreat, the air warming with her spell. You smell charred leaves, and you sense their relief, the first barrier down Sprout's trap defeated. You know, 5 more, wait each tied to a professor's skill, and you feel their determination, their bond tighter than ever, ready to face what's next. You're plunging through the dark chute beneath the trapdoor, the air rushing past cold and damp, smelling of earth and ancient stone. You're with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, their gasps echoing as they slide the memory of Fluffy's snores and the enchanted harp's lullaby fading above. You feel Harry's heart pounding, his scar burning faintly, the weight of their mission to stop Snape from stealing the Sorcerer's Stone, driving them deeper into Hogwarts secrets. The chute twists and you land hard on a soft, writhing mass, the air now thick with the musty scent of vegetation. You hear the creak of vines, feel their slimy grip coiling around your ankles, and you sense Harry's panic, his wand clutched tight. Hermione's voice cuts through, sharp but steady. "It's Devil's Snare. Don't struggle, it'll tighten." You see the vines, Sprout's trap, wrapping Ron, his face red as he thrashes, and you feel Harry's fear, the memory of Norbert's crate, and the forbidden forest's darkness surging back. Hermione's calm, her wand glowing. It hates light and heat. Lumos Solemn. A burst of sunlight erupts, and you smell charred leaves as the vines recoil, releasing you. You tumble onto stone, the air cooler now, and you feel their relief, the first of Hagrid's layers defeated. You sense their bond forged through Fluffy in the forest, now a lifeline in this underground maze. You move forward, the corridor, narrow, its walls slick with moisture, smelling of mildew and metal. A faint hum grows louder, and you enter a high chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. Hundreds of winged keys flutter like birds, their feathers glinting in torchlight, and you see a locked door across the room, a broomstick hovering nearby, Flitwick's challenge. You feel Harry's pulse quicken, his seeker instincts kicking in the same spark that caught the snitch. "One of those keys fits the lock," he says, scanning the swarm. You smell wax and feathers, hear the key's metallic clinks, and you notice one with a bent wing, silver and old, darting erratically. Harry mounts the broom, the air rushing as he soars, and you're with him, the keys swarming like angry wasps. You feel his focus, his hands steady despite the chaos, and you hear Ron shout, "It's the silver one." Hermione's analyzing, her voice urgent. "It's moving slower. Grab it." Harry dives, his fingers closing around the key, and you feel his triumph, a echo of Quidditch glory. He lands, unlocking the door, and you sense their momentum, the second barrier down, but the air's heavier now, the scent of magic growing stronger. You step into a vast chamber, the air cold, and still smelling of dust and old wood. A giant chessboard stretches before you, its black and white squares gleaming the pieces, towering carved from stone McGonagall's trap. You hear a low grind as the pieces shift their eyes glowing faintly, and you feel Harry's unease, his scar, prickling. Ron's face lights up, his voice confident. "I've got this. It's wizard's chess." You sense his pride, the boy who envied Harry's fame now, taking charge, and you chuckle softly, imagining Ron challenging McGonagall to a match. After this, he'd probably try. Ron assigns roles himself as a knight, Harry as a bishop, Hermione as a rook, and you feel their trust in him, the trio's dynamic shining. The game begins, the opposing pieces moving with brutal precision, stone cracking as they smash each other. You hear the thud of a pawn falling, smell the dust rising, and you feel Harry's tension, his wand useless here. Ron's strategic sacrificing pieces, but you sense his fear as the board shrinks, the White Queen's eyes locking onto him. "I have to be taken," he says, his voice steady but pale. "It's the only way to checkmate." You feel Harry's protest, Hermione's gasp, but Ron's resolute, his courage matching Harry's dive for the snitch. Ron moves, the White Queen lunges, and you hear the sickening crunch as she strikes Ron, collapsing. You feel Harry's horror, Hermione's scream, but Ron's alive, just unconscious, and you sense their grief, their drive to honor his sacrifice. Harry makes the final move, checkmating the king, and you hear the board's pieces bow, the door unlocking. You carry Ron, his weight heavy, and you feel their determination, the third barrier down, 3 more to go. The next room's small, the air sharp with the stench of decay. Quirrell's trap, a troll already dead, its club splintered. You feel their relief, no fight needed, but the air's oppressive, the scent of blood lingering. You move to a table with 7 bottles, a riddle carved on parchment, Snape's challenge, a logic puzzle. You smell potion fumes, bitter and acidic, and you see Hermione's eyes light up, her mind, racing like in the library. "This is about logic, not magic," she says, solving the riddle, identifying the bottle to move forward and one to return. You feel Harry's gratitude, her brilliance, a match for Ron's chess, and you sense their awe, she's saved them again. Harry insists Hermione go back, taking Ron to safety, and you feel her reluctance, her loyalty clashing with logic. "You're the one it's after," she says, her voice breaking, and you sense Harry's fear, his scar searing, knowing Voldemort's tied to this. She hugs him, a rare moment, and you feel their bond stronger than the castle's magic. Hermione leaves with Ron, the return potion bitter on her lips, and you're with Harry alone, now the final door ahead. You smell fire and danger, hear a faint hum of power, and you know the stones close, the truth waiting. Harry's courage burns the boy from the cupboard, now a hero, and you're right there ready for what's next. You're standing with Harry in a dimly lit chamber, the air heavy with the scent of burning torches and ancient stone, the echo of Hermione's footsteps fading as she carries Ron back through the potion room. The final door looms before you, its wood carved with runes that pulse faintly, and you feel Harry's heart pounding, his scar searing with a pain sharper than ever before. The weight of the sorcerer's stone, the trials, devil's snare, winged keys. Chess the troll, the potions presses on him, but you sense his courage, the same spark that caught the snitch that faced Fluffy, that broke the mirror of Erised's pull. He's alone now, Ron and Hermione's sacrifices behind him, and you know the truth about the stone's thief is waiting tied to the dark name Voldemort that's haunted him since Hagrid's shack. Harry pushes the door open, and you step into a vast room, its ceiling lost in shadow. The air warm and thick with the smell of wax and something metallic like old blood. At the center stands the mirror of Erised, its gold frame gleaming the words, "Erised stra eru, oit ube cafru oit anwosi," catching the torchlight. You feel Harry's jolt of recognition, the memory of his parents' faces in its glass, and you sense his confusion. Why is it here guarding the stone? A figure stands before it robed and turbaned, and you see Harry's shoulders tense, expecting Snape. But the voice that speaks is stammering nervous, not Snape's silky sneer. "Potter," it says, and you realize it's Quirrell, the timid defense against the dark arts teacher from Diagon Alley. You feel Harry's shock, his mind racing. Quirrell, not Snape. The professor's face is pale, his eyes wild, and you smell sweat and fear on him mixed with something darker like decay. "You weren't supposed to get this far," Quirrell says, his stutter fading, his voice sharper now. You sense Harry's betrayal, his scar burning, as Quirrell admits to everything: the jinxed broom, the troll, the attempt to steal the stone. Snape was our red herring, he sneers, and you feel Harry's guilt. His misjudgment of Snape, who tried to counter the jinx, not cast it. You chuckle softly, imagining Snape's scowl. If he knew Harry suspected him all along, bet he'd dock points just for that. Quirrell's staring into the mirror, muttering, "I see the stone, but how do I get it?" You feel Harry's pulse quicken, realizing the mirror's the final trap. Dumbledore's, not Snape's. You remember Dumbledore's words. It shows what we want most, and you know the stone's hidden inside safe from those who seek it for greed. Harry steps closer, drawn to the mirror, and you see his reflection, not his parents this time, but himself, smiling, holding a blood-red stone. You feel his surprise as the real stone slips into his pocket, heavy and warm, the mirror giving it to him because he wants to protect it, not use it. Quirrell doesn't notice, but a voice, cold hissing, not human, cuts through the air. He has it, the boy. You feel Harry's terror, his scar exploding with pain, and you know it's Voldemort somehow here. Quirrell unwinds his turban, and you smell rot, the air turning foul as the fabric falls. On the back of his head is a face, pale, snake-like, with red eyes and slits for nostrils. You feel Harry's nausea, his legs trembling, and you sense the evil, the same darkness from the Forbidden Forest, drinking unicorn blood. "Give me the stone, Potter." Voldemort hisses his voice like ice, and you know this is the wizard who killed Harry's parents, who gave him the scar. You stand with Harry, his wand shaking, his voice defiant despite his fear. "Never," he shouts, and you feel his courage, the boy from the cupboard, facing a monster. Quirrell lunges his hands, grabbing Harry, and you smell burning flesh, as Quirrell screams, his skin blistering where it touches Harry's. You feel Harry's confusion, his pain, but also his power. Something in him, maybe Lily's love, maybe the blood magic Dumbledore spoke of, is fighting back. Quirrell's desperate, Voldemort's voice raging, "Kill him." You hear the crack of stone, the mirror unmoved, and you sense Harry's determination, his hands pushing Quirrell away, the stone still in his pocket. The chamber blurs, Harry's vision fading, his scars' pain overwhelming. You feel his strength waver, his body collapsing, but Quirrell's screams echo his form crumbling under Voldemort's weakening grip. You smell ash and death, hear a wail as a dark shadow flees, and you know Voldemort's gone for now. Harry's unconscious, the stone safe, and you sense the trial's end, the castle's magic holding him as the chamber falls silent. You're with him, the air still the fight over, but the weight of what's happened. Quirrell's betrayal, Voldemort's return, lingers, and you know the story's not done. You are in the Hogwarts hospital wing, the air soft with the scent of lavender and healing potions, sunlight streaming through tall windows to warm the white linens on Harry's bed. You're with him as he stirs his glasses resting on a bedside table, his scar faintly red but no longer burning. You feel his grogginess, the ache of his battle with Quirrell and Voldemort, fading like a bad dream, though the weight of the Sorcerer's Stone's safety anchors him. The room's quiet, save for the rustle of Madame Pomfrey's robes and the distant chirp of birds outside signaling summer's approach. You sense Harry's relief. His body heavy, but his spirit lighter, the stones secure Voldemort's shadow gone at least for now. Dumbledore sits beside him, his silver beard catching the light, his eyes kind but sharp, like the night he left Harry on Privet Drive. You feel Harry's trust tempered by questions, and you hear Dumbledore's voice calm and measured, unraveling the truth. The stone is safe, Harry, thanks to you. Quirrell could not touch you because of your mother's love, a protection woven into your very skin. You sense Harry's awe, his connection to Lily and James, deepening the mirror of Erised's vision, now a strength, not a longing. Dumbledore reveals the stone's destruction, Flamel's acceptance, and you feel Harry's bittersweet relief. Immortality's temptation is gone, but so is a piece of magic's wonder. You chuckle softly, imagining Flamel toasting to a final century with a good glass of wine. Eternity's overrated anyway. Harry asks about Voldemort, and Dumbledore's voice grows grave. He's not gone, Harry. He'll seek ways to return. You feel Harry's fear, but also his resolve, the boy who faced a dark wizard now ready for what's ahead. Ron and Hermione burst in their faces bright, and you sense their bond forged through chess, sacrifices, potion riddles, and dragon escapes. They're a family, and you feel Harry's gratitude, his heart full, after years in the cupboard. You follow them to the great hall for the end-of-year feast, the air alive with the smell of roast beef, fresh bread, and butterbeer, the enchanted ceiling a vibrant blue dotted with fluffy clouds. The halls decked in Slytherin green, their house points leading, and you see Draco's smirk, his arrogance unbroken despite his forced attention. You feel Harry's irritation, but also his pride. Gryffindors fought hard. Dumbledore rises his robes shimmering, and you hear the clink of goblets as he awards last-minute points, Ron for chess, Hermione for logic, Harry for courage, and Neville for standing up to friends. You sense the hall's shock as Gryffindor surges ahead, the banners shifting to scarlet and gold, and you hear the roar of cheers, Fred and George leading the chant. You're with Harry, his grin wide, his scar quiet, and you feel his triumph, not just for points, but for belonging. The tables overflow with food, treacle tarts, pumpkin, pasties, and you smell the sweetness. Hear the laughter, see Hagrid's proud nod from the staff table. You sense Harry's growth. The boy from Privet Drive now a hero, his courage tested by Fluffy, the mirror, and Voldemort himself. Exams are over, trunks packed, and you follow the trio to the Hogwarts Express, the platform bustling with owls and farewells. The train's scarlet engine puffs, smelling of coal and summer, and you feel Harry's bittersweet pang, leaving Hogwarts returning to the Dursleys. You board with them, the compartment warm, the air filled with chocolate frog wrappers and Ron's jokes. Hermione's planning next year's studies, Ron's plotting Quidditch, and you sense Harry's hope, his knowledge that Hogwarts waits a home unlike any other. You see the Dursleys at King's Cross, Vernon's scowl unchanged, but you feel Harry's strength. He's not the boy they locked in a cupboard anymore. He's a wizard with friends with a future, and you know he'll carry this year's lessons, its victories into whatever comes next. You're back on the Hogwarts Express, the train's gentle sway rocking you, the scent of coal smoke and summer grass fading as the world softens. The compartment's warm, Harry's laughter with Ron and Hermione a distant hum like a lullaby woven into the air. You feel the castle's magic linger, its towers and secrets now, a memory but one that holds you close safe. The sun dips low, painting the sky in golds and pinks, and you see fields blur past their colors, melting into a quiet haze. Your breath slows the weight of the stone's trials. Fluffy's growls the mirrors pull. Voldemort's shadow slipping away like leaves on a stream. You're with Harry. His scar calm, his heart full, and you sense his peace, a boy who found home in a world of magic. The train's rhythm is steady, each click of the tracks a whisper to rest, to dream. You imagine Hogwarts waiting its great hall glowing its feasts, ready for another year. The air's gentle now, carrying only warmth, and you feel the trio's bond a thread that won't break. Let the Dursleys fade, let the forest's darkness dissolve here. There's only the promise of tomorrow of spells, yet to learn of adventures to come. Close your eyes, let the train carry you, its hum a soft embrace. You're safe, held by the story's end, ready to drift into dreams where magic lives.